power of different blood seals in the sanguine circle, so long as you have the appropriate combination of packs in order to power them.
One right way to play when
These bosses have unique loot tables.
Yes.
That have specific unique zombies that you can target.
That's right. So you will be able to have, you will know the sorts of boss you're looking for to farm.
We actually added a bunch of new monsters or minions that will be all throughout the continent. First, we have here our Shadow Vampires.
From the whole Diablo 4 team here at Blizzard.
Oh my god, yes, look at that.
The Jobashad, like the Purvey of Curiosity.
You don't have to
spend
run
others
as much.
you're accruing them, and you'll get more gear as you are as you're playing.
Appreciate you guys joining in. We'll see you next week for the October 10th stream. Have a good one.
Playing tip.
Let's go!
unholy vampiric powers to wield and new endgame encounters to test your skill.
And players will need to harness the enemy's own
Okay,
blood
wait, I should
magic
probably put a
against
headset on.
them
I can't hear.
to end this new evil.
If I need to adjust the
It's too
volume,
late.
let me know,
Diablo 4,
and we'll make it a
the
little bit
season of
louder.
In Season 2, the people of Sanctuary have a new danger to face: invasion by an army of vampires. This shadowy vampire cult has laid claim to large areas of the world and have begun abducting innocent citizens to use in their dark rituals.
Everyone's lives are at risk, including your own.
In Season 2, players are going to uncover a plot led by a new ancient vampire named Lord Zir, who's awoken recently.
Lord Zir is a remnant of a lost age. Before there were humans in Sanctuary, it was inhabited by the firstborn children of Inarius and Lilith, who are known as the Ancients.
But because of Inarius' actions, the Ancients had their powers drawn away from them. But some among them were not strictly subject to a true death.
Zir and his cohort were banished to sleep for an eternity in the city of the Ancients, but due to the events of Diablo 4, the city began to awake, with dire consequences
Can I
for
go live
humans
there?
living on the surface above.
During the events of Season 2, the player is going to contract a vampiric curse, but they're not under Lord Zir's control, which gives them a unique opportunity to strike back against the cult and stop Lord Zir's plans.
We'll encounter a variety of new characters this season, including a band of vampire hunters, one with a particularly shadowy past.
Seek out Zir's army. Kill as many as you can.
Eris is a professional vampire hunter. She's crossed and recrossed the wilds of Sanctuary, putting an end to the undead since long before the events of Diablo 4.
I need to go after the magistrate, and you're going to have to come along.
Eris is played by actor Gemma Chan. It's exciting to see more film and television actors lending their talents to the video game world. Gemma brings a wealth of experience to the table from a wide variety of roles. She was a great choice to breathe life into this character of
Loki,
a world-weary
will you
but
just go to jail
determined vampire
quietly?
hunter with a lot of emotional complexity.
That's a bite mark.
Come get him.
You're
Okay,
changing.
you want to watch it
aren't
with
you?
us? Okay.
No, from the depth of that wound, you should have already. She is strong. She's compassionate towards others, but she's also witnessed a lot of horror in her life, so she's pretty emotionally guarded and stubborn and fixed in her worldview. Oh, you're going to change. I'm sorry, but whatever's preventing your
Thank you
cravings
to the
won't last
follow. Well,
forever.
come on in.
It never does.
She realizes that the player character has these vampire traits, which
I'm all
makes
for
him
the
a useful
cutscenes.
tool, but potentially a disposable one.
This is madness. Perhaps that's what it takes.
One of the core seasonal mechanics for this season are vampiric powers. Vampiric powers can be acquired by defeating blood seekers and minions of Lord Zir in order to acquire potent blood, which allows you to unlock or upgrade vampiric powers.
When you collect all of these various powers, they have costs, which are going to be detailed as part of the pack system. So armor pieces that you collect during the course of the season are going to have these packs associated with them.
And there are 3 types of packs.
The armor
and you can
this
use
time.
the boons they provide in order to fuel the blood seals for various vampiric powers. You can combine the power of different blood seals in the sanguine circle, so long as you have the appropriate combination of packs in order to power them.
One thing we've really tried hard to do is to provide powers that enhance every build so that there's no one right way to play when pursuing that vampire fantasy.
There's one in particular that I like where as the player dashes, they turn to a cloud of bats, and they'll curse creatures they pass through along the way. As you kill those creatures, you're going to actually steal their souls. When you use certain abilities on your character, all of those souls are unleashed, dealing devastating damage to nearby creatures.
There's also an ability called Rising Moon, where you can stack basic skills, and after you reach a maximum number of stacks, you go into a vampiric blood rage. If you can't get enough of bats, there's even a vampire power that allows you to summon a bat companion.
What?
They'll take a bite out of your enemies and have a chance to stun them.
Lord Zir's army is pushing across Sanctuary in an event called the Blood Harvest, which will always be active somewhere on the map, but will change locations in a cyclical way.
Blood harvests are large-scale open-world events where vampires have overwhelmed an area in the hopes of enslaving the populace, harvesting their blood, and siring more vampires.
Players will venture into these areas to rescue prisoners, stop sinister rituals, and hunt for high-value enemies. Of course, they'll be rewarded for their efforts with a variety of new items, as well as the potent blood that fuels their vampiric powers.
In Season 2, the Season of Blood, we're going to be adding 5 new returning endgame bosses for players to engage with once they get into World Tiers 3 and 4. Players will be able to earn the materials to summon these bosses by completing Whispers and by completing Helltide events.
Yes!
We have some new enemies with powerful elemental attacks, giving players more reason to seek out and equip gear that enhances their resistance.
Helltides and Whispers, let's go!
What sets these new endgame bosses apart is that they offer a new way to farm uniques. So if there's a build-defining unique you're after, you'll be able to target farm specific bosses.
And our most challenging boss that we're going to be adding as part of Season 2 is also going to have an opportunity to drop extremely rare unique items that players have been hunting for.
Whoa.
We're also going to be adding some quality of life updates in Season 2. The first of which is we're going to be taking our gem system and making it so when gems drop for the player, you're actually collecting materials. They're going to be stored differently. They're not going to go into your inventory the same way, to help alleviate some of the concerns about inventory space that players have talked about before.
As long as you finish the prologue, you can now choose to skip the rest of the campaign and dive straight into creating.
That's next week.
If you previously unlocked a mount in Diablo 4, it will be immediately available to use when you begin your journey through the Season of Blood. And we've made it so that renown rewards persist through seasons, so that the reward is now account bound.
As we do with every new season, we'll be adding a new season journey and a new battle pass filled with new, vampiric-themed cosmetics for them to collect. And we'll also be adding some new town
Yo, look at the
cosmetics, both in the
horse!
free and paid versions of our battle pass in Season 2. We'll also be making a number of other changes to the game, updating unique powers and items, reviewing legendary aspects for different classes. We're going to be updating stats like our resistance values across the game, and a number of other balance tweaks to make sure the game is as fun as possible for players.
One of the most exciting things for me about working on Seasons is that Sanctuary is a big place and there's a lot going on. The primevals and the angelic forces are still very much in play, but I think players are going to enjoy seeing some more human-scale dramas play out.
Diablo 4's second season will be our largest content update yet, but we're only getting started.
You'll see. They'll
Along
be
with
talking about
providing
that
new
soon.
quest lines, powers, and events each season, we'll continue to improve upon established systems by listening to player feedback to make your adventure in Sanctuary
No, they didn't say the
best it can
bosses
be.
yet.
We're incredibly excited for you to explore more corners of Sanctuary. So come join us in the hunt.
Yes.
Hey guys, how's it going? Long time no see. Welcome to another developer update live stream for Diablo 4. My name is Adam Fletcher. I'm the community director here for Diablo. I'm joined by our wonderful panel here. Some familiar faces, one new face. Feel free to introduce yourselves, you guys.
Thanks. I'm Joe Shelley, game director for Diablo 4.
I'm Antonio Watson, associate dungeon designer for Diablo 4.
And I'm Joe Pipora. I'm the associate game director for Diablo 4's live service.
And I know you guys actually just saw an early look at Season 2, Season of Blood, with that video before the actual live stream kicked off. I do want to start off, before we kick off into this conversation,
Yeah.
there is going to be an emergency alert if you live in the US
Yeah.
at 11:20 on every single mobile device. So you may actually see us look at our phones or our watches, or you might hear it at home if you live in the US. So if you do hear a weird noise or something, we've tried throwing everyone's phones out of the room, but it still might happen. So it's a good time check though, which it lets me know that it's 11:20, which is really funny. But we do have a lot to...
Pacific.
What was that?
11:20 Pacific time.
Yes, Pacific time, 11:20 Pacific. Sorry, we live in California, and so that is the time that we kind of base it. So based off your time zone, that is in 17 minutes, everyone. But I did want to give that heads up to everyone that if you hear a weird noise, or if you hear a weird noise at home, that's what it is. It's a test. If you live in the U.S., that is. But we do
That's
have a
the
lot to
zombie
talk about
thing,
here. We do want to talk about Season 2.
Where people are going to start
Of
transforming.
course, with Season of Blood, and go through all the gameplay mechanics, a little bit about the story, some of the new elements that are coming within this season, since we're now coming really close to Season of Blood, which is coming out on October 17th, and of course, Season of the Malignant will also be ending on October 17th, so it'll be a season transition. for players between both seasons. And then we have a bunch of gameplay updates and quality of life updates to actually go through a ton. Like this, we expect this actual developer update live stream to go for about 2 hours because we do need to go through a ton of items with everyone. And then we have some news and announcements to make regarding Diablo 4 towards the end. And of course, we have our Q&A, which we'll be taking questions from Twitch chat. And then I know we actually have some questions from the forums because we had started a forum thread earlier this week.
Hopefully you guys got your snacks and drinks.
Regarding the developer update live stream. So I do know that we do want to kick it off with a little bit about Season 2.
Yeah.
So want to jump straight into it?
Let's dive in. So I know that we just watched the video together where we talked about the Season of Blood. But in Season 2, the players are going to be confronting a new villain who's begun to surface throughout Sanctuary. A character named Lord Zir, this ancient vampire who's awoken recently and begun to gather all of these vampiric cultists and other followers to his banner in effort to kind of overtake Sanctuary and achieve his own aims across the world. Now, while the player is progressing through the season, they're going to meet a new character named Eris, who I think we have. So you're going to meet Eris during the course of the season. Eris is a vampire hunter who's been trying to thwart Lord Zir for the past the past few weeks and months. Trying to hunt them down and try to eliminate them entirely.
Bloody Lord.
She's not having great luck sort of investigating the cults. She needs more help. The player is going to kind of enter the picture, but as part of the story, as the player is progressing through the season, mild spoiler here, but the player is going to contract vampirism. Now, but due to the strange nature of the interaction with the Lilith's blood in the player character, they're going to be able to resist some of the effects of Lord Zir's influence. Instead, gain all those same powers without those detriments that are holding back other creatures, which can be really, really cool.
Yeah, she's the season NPC.
Eris is going to be fairly nervous about this, as she's only ever seen anyone who ends up actually contracting vampirism this way end up following and serving Lord Zir in the end, regardless of their intentions overall, which we dig more into a little bit later on with enemies and such. But this represents this interesting new character that you'll be able to work with as you're kind of following the quest line of the season. So as you're going through these things, you'll be kind of going across all of the world. And I know, Antonio, we talked about we had talked before about how there are a number of dungeons we added with the season, and you kind of go into some of those part of the quest line.
So we have new dungeons that are part of the quest line. You can explore crypts. There's a really cool dungeon at the end when you are going to confront Zir for the final battle. And in addition to that, throughout the story, you will be revisiting some old places that are a bit different now that Zir's minions have come and taken over.
Yeah. So I've seen, I think we're seeing some of the dungeon stuff here.
So instead of the tunnels, it's going to be dungeons.
The new dungeons in the quest line are pretty cool, particularly that finale that you called out, when you're getting to sort of get a chance to, once you've tracked down Lord Zir with Eris and you get a chance to really confront him in his lair, those are some pretty epic moments that we don't want to actually show on stream just now.
Spoilers.
Yeah, no spoilers for all that stuff just yet, but definitely a lot of things to look forward to. So the player's going to meet other characters as well as they're progressing through the season. There are other allies they kind of are going to meet. They're going to learn more about Lord Zir's plans overall, what his real intentions are for Sanctuary as all of this is going on. So that's kind of the high level of what's happening in the world. Basically, Lord Zir and his army of vampiric cultists are trying to take everything over. And that manifests in a bunch of different ways throughout the season.
I want to join
But I think the first thing I really want to talk about, or the next thing I want to talk about, are the mechanics, what you're going to be doing during the season to kind of gain power and such. So we talk about the fantasy of the season is that the player is basically becoming part vampire during the course of the Season of Blood. And part of that comes down to making sure that we have cool vampiric powers for players to collect and use. So what we see here is our vampiric power user interface. It's the way the players are going to be able to collect a lot of powers as they're progressing through the season, and then slot them into the circular UI above. So throughout the season, players are going to be able to acquire up to 22 vampiric powers as they play. And these are designed such that they are, unlike in Season 1 where with Wellington Hearts, we had a lot of very class-specific hearts baked in. We tried to make sure that the vampiric powers that players collect in Season 2 are all class-agnostic in nature, so that there's just more combinations and things for players to select from and play with as they're thinking about their build. And yeah, so we have a few of these showing up right here. They come with a few different varieties in terms of the level of power of them, and each of them have a pack cost. Well, I will talk about a little bit more in just a moment. But you see these pack costs listed at the bottom. Players need to acquire a certain armor pieces that have these packs associated with them in order to fuel these. Again, which I'll talk about a little bit more in a minute. Why don't we actually see if we take a look at maybe a couple of these powers themselves real fast. Yeah, so here's one. So players can have a vampiric power they get as they're progressing through the season.
It looks so cool.
Their evade allows them to turn to like a cloud of bats, and it also makes them unstoppable for a few seconds after they use it at the same time. And it's a way for the player to deliver a new effect that you can get throughout the season, which is called Vampiric Curse. So when you see that that red effect above a lot of the creatures that the player is fighting, they're under the effects of Vampiric Curse. And if you kill them while that effect is active on those creatures, you get to steal their souls and bind them to you for a short period of time, up to 8 of them at a time. And then, when you choose to use a defensive ability on your character, you unleash all of these souls, as you can see here. These missiles, like these spirit missiles that fly out and hit lots of different creatures as you're playing through. So it kind of gives you this opportunity as you're going through packs and dungeons or elsewhere to kind of stack these up and use them to quickly burn down groups or elites that you might have to come across as you're playing. There's other cool things you'll get, like there's abilities for based on other companion skill uses and other things where you can we have this where the bats will come down and attack your enemies. And then many other powers. We talked about there was an overpower power we showed before. There's another one here that is more focused on channeling skills. Yeah, here it is. So when you start using channeling skills, people will drop this pool of blood around you, which gives you some extra protection. It also enhances all the damage that you deal while you're nearby. So this is going to be able to fire when you're using any kind of channeling skill and enhance those channeling skills. It just gives you a bit more positional gameplay to be thinking about when you're playing into this build. So pretty fun ways for you to kind of maximize and get extra damage rather from a channeling build for a class.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's cool about that I like about the Vampiric Curse is that there are a few different things that can trigger it and a few different ways to key off it. And so a lot of these vampiric powers have interactions with that curse. It kind of forms a unifying thread in some ways.
Yeah, absolutely. We think it's a really cool extra ability for players to play with, and being able to trigger it in different ways is very fun, we think. So the next thing I want to talk about was actually how you're able to fuel your vampiric powers, those packs I talked about before. So if you look here in the inventory screen, you'll see that that all of the armor pieces that players are collecting are going to have a set number of packs associated with them. So you see here on the items themselves, they all have these small symbols off on the left-hand side. Yeah, or underneath them, or rather. And these represent the various packs that players can collect of the 3 different types to fuel all the vampiric powers they can collect. Because ultimately, you want to gather all your vampiric powers, you want to level them all up to level 3 to make them as strong as you can get them, and then you want to make sure that you can fuel all of those vampiric powers so you can have all 5 slotted that you really care about. To do that, you need to make sure that you've got the right kinds of armor pieces available. The packs are only going to appear in armor. They don't appear on jewelry or on weapons, just on armor pieces. But, and I should say, every armor piece that drops during the course of the Season of Blood will always have packs associated with them as well. So you're not looking for items that are going to have. It's not rare in that way. And as the player progresses through the season, they're going to also gain these new items they're able to collect from completing various content types. We'll talk a little bit more about it in a minute. But these allow players to basically remove packs from items. They allow them to eject new packs into items up to the pack limit, which is based upon the tier of content the player is playing in. So normal items have 3, and then Sacred have 4, and then on to 5 as you go into Ancestral. So as you're progressing through, you can get more of these packs, and you have a lot more control over your ultimate pack loadout on your items as you collect more and more of these consumables that you can use to kind of modify and update your items. So we're really excited about this. Great ways to get these are going and completing other, like I mentioned, the Blood Harvest in the video. We'll talk a little bit more about in a minute. But killing Blood Seekers is a way to get these in a really good way. So there's lots of ways to kind of grab these.
This is so cool.
So that's kind of like the very high level. We'll talk more about the other
it's
things
supposed
you'll be
to be
doing
less
to gain the
RNG.
vampire powers to get to some of the other sections of when we're talking about Season 2. But there's also a lot of new enemies and things we're adding as part of Season 2 as well.
Enemy families.
So as part of Season 2, we actually added a bunch of new monsters. Lord Zir has a ton of different minions that will be all throughout the continent. First, we have here our Shadow Vampires. These guys are not your typical flavor of vampires. They have a bunch of really cool new attacks.
Whoa.
You'll see them all on the
This guy's probably gonna kill me 100
You'll see them in a
times.
variety of dungeons. Paired with these guys, we also have our blood skeletons. These guys are kind of similar to our regular skeletons, but they also come with new attacks that allow you to have new counterplay and techniques in order to defeat
like
them
him.
and get around them. So be prepared for that.
Yeah, they have like a little bit more area denial baked in their
Right,
kits, right?
right.
As you're fighting some of the blood skeletons.
Yeah,
Whoa.
you definitely want to watch where you step, like when you're engaging with these guys.
Yeah, and the vampires have like these cool things where they occasionally drop these like giant like heart-like lumps on the ground, and sometimes they'll be able to trigger shields off of these things. So you kind of like change your target priority as you're going through space where
the
you have to fight
skins.
shadow vampires frequently to make sure that you're knocking these things out to prevent those shields from being applied. So yeah, there's some cool things to react to as part of this. But of course, that's not even the only creature, right? Because there's the man himself, right?
Yeah. So we also have Lord Zir. Here he is on his throne.
Brooding.
Yes.
Hello, Daddy.
He is the mastermind. You will be facing off of with him throughout the season and during the end of the season. He is
He
our
can bite
big bad
me any
evil
day.
guy. And coming along with him are his lieutenants, the Bloodseekers.
Oh yeah, the Bloodseekers. So Bloodseekers are really
kidding.
cool. So Bloodseekers are a new idea in season 2, and the concept here is that like as the player has been is sort of protected a little bit by Lilith's blood in this way, that they're not able to be controlled by Lord Zir after they contract vampirism under his.
Well, it's like evil versions of our classes.
There are other heroes who've gone out there that don't have that same level of protection. Who've gone out there trying to stop Lord Zir, trying to stop the vampiric advances, and they have fallen victim to the blood cults and to Lord Zir's forces that way. And for those characters, now you've got vampiric sorceresses, you've got vampiric barbarians, you've got these bloodseekers out there looking to kill you, the player. So as you're progressing through, you'll be dealing with enemy rogues, you'll be dealing with enemy druids and necromancers as you're playing, and dealing with their specific like spells and kits that we've created for the season for players to interact with. And honestly, finding bloodseekers is great because these guys are just blood bags. You know, they have a really, really good chance to drop potent blood. And potent blood is going to be the currency that you're going to be collecting through the season.
Okay.
You'll be able to use to basically upgrade powers that you already have, your vampiric powers, and unlock new ones that are available through the vampiric power UI. So really, whenever you find bloodseekers, you want to take them out because they are, first, they're pretty fun to fight, they're a little challenging, but they also have the ability to give you big upgrades for your vampiric powers. And they can jump you too, right? So like, we make sure bloodseekers are, you'll find them in the world, particularly in Blood Harvest. We'll talk about that again. I keep saying we'll talk about things in a minute, but there are lots of chances to get them to fight them in Blood Harvest. But you can also find them in dungeons and stuff too, right?
Yeah, so you can see them in the overworld, but they will also invade you in dungeons, so don't let them catch you slipping. They will be all over, finding you when you least expect it.
So they're gonna spawn like Butcher and stuff.
Pass into a dungeon, you will have a barbarian jump on you, whirlwind, they'll be all trying to slow you down, right, and causing problems. Yeah, very fun. So yeah, a lot of new enemy types as part of the new season.
Oh my god! Imagine
So
the
then,
freaking
I guess next thing is
vampire
finally it's time to talk about
barbarian
Blood Harvest.
plus Butcher at the same time
okay.
spawns.
So I mentioned before that Lord Zir is taking over Sanctuary, and Blood Harvest is really the way that we're representing that. Starting right at level 1, you'll find that Lord Zir's minions have taken over broad swaths of the 5 zones in Sanctuary, and it's going to be filled with his minions out there trying to drain the blood from a variety of different people. There's that
emergency alert.
That emergency alert we talked about.
Oh, there it is.
There we go.
Right.
Now everyone gets to experience this together. And my phone as well.
So while these events are active, or rather these activities are active, you'll find Lord Zir's armies marching across Sanctuary, taking
I expected the alert to be a lot
taking them prisoner,
louder.
draining them of blood, and just causing general havoc in these areas where there's
there's the
popping,
werewolf!
There's new creatures. There's lots of things to do as you're kind of going through this.
So what's the difference between Blood Harvest and Helltide?
This is gonna be so fun.
That's a great question, Antonio. So obviously there's some similarities to the way that things are working in Helltide. The difference here is that first of all, it's available right away at level 1, as you're progressing. But also, while these events are active, there's always a Blood Harvest active across Sanctuary at any given time.
Okay, I like
when
that.
a Blood Harvest ends in one location somewhere in Sanctuary, a new one's going to pop up as Lord Zir's forces now move to a new location. And One of the cool things about Blood Harvest that's a little bit different than things like Helltide is that as you're kind of going through and playing, you're going to be earning a couple of new materials that you don't get elsewhere. And that is, you're going to be able to earn Bloodlures, which Bloodlures that you'll be able to use to basically like bait Bloodseekers to come to you, to be able to fight packs of them as time goes on. And you're also going to be earning these vampiric keys you can use to open like prisoners like cups.
But this is available all the time.
And other things
it's not timed like Helltide.
And one of the cool things about this is that these materials,
so when one ends, another one spawns.
To kind of like do some of these activities. These don't disappear at the end of a Blood Harvest. So as you collect them, they stay with you from that point forward. So there's not limited progress in that way. Yeah, here's an example of a player going and using Bloodlures to summon a few of the Bloodseekers in combat. So yeah, and then
so we use an altar to summon them. Okay.
But the so that's a couple differences, and the other is there's actually another new feature that we're adding in season 2, which we're calling right here. It's called Hunter's Acclaim. And as you do things in the Blood Harvest area, as you're killing Bloodseekers, as you are freeing prisoners, as you're completing new Blood Harvest themed whispers that are also going to be active in those areas, you're going to be earning Hunter's Acclaim that will allow you to basically go and earn a number of other rewards. Some of the vampiric powers that you want to unlock for your character are available through this system, a few of them. And then there's lots of like potent blood you can get from the system, and then also gear as well as you're progressing through. So there's a bunch of different stuff in here for players to do. It's we're really excited to see how they level up in this experience.
And the Blood Harvest occurs in addition to Helltide, right? Once you progress up into the higher world tiers, you'll still be seeing Helltides.
That's absolutely right. You'll still see Helltides as well, but you'll also see higher level Blood Harvest as you get into like world tiers 3 and 4.
Awesome. So we got a lot of information here about Season 2, but Season 2 also has some other components to it that actually are beyond even just like seasonal stuff. Like, and I know people may have seen in the video the discussion that we quickly brought up like before the stream actually started, which was about the new bosses that are being added in. Can you guys kind of walk through like what the new endgame boss system is going to be for players that do want to kind of experience that?
Yeah, absolutely. So you're right that first and foremost, this is content we're adding to the Eternal Realm as well as the Seasonal Realm from this point forward.
I would love
it. We're continuing to add more activities like this as time goes on. But there's actually, I think I have a handy dandy chart, a very designery chart to help players understand kind of what we're talking about here. So what you see here is the way that we kind of look at the content progression of Diablo 4, the way the players are playing through the experience, the sorts of activities they engage with as they play at various stages.
Like in Season 1, right?
Yeah,
I can ask.
In Season 1. So yeah, you can think of it in that way.
Probably won't get an answer until at the end of the
Yeah,
stream,
our 1 to 50 experience, obviously you're leveling up initially. Maybe you're going through the campaign for the first time. You're progressing through. Eventually you get out of World Tiers 1, 2, and get into World Tier 3 after you finish the capstone. Here you get to do, you have higher level whispers to do. You get exposed to Nightmare Dungeons for the first time. You get exposed to Helltide for the first time. World boss get a little bit tougher. Legion events get a little bit tougher. We're making some changes there as well. And then eventually you get into World Tier 4. Now you're getting your ancestral items, and you continue to move on through Nightmare Dungeons, and you continue on through Helltide until eventually you go and you confront Echo of Lilith, potentially. If that's one of your goals for yourself, and you try to take her out. Yeah. That's kind of like what we had in place right at launch. Not even thinking about Season 1 necessarily, but that's like what the end game sort of looks like. It's a lot of Nightmare Dungeons, a lot of Helltide, right? And we've heard a lot of feedback from players, and also from our experiences playing the game, that players are looking for more milestones, they're looking for more goals, they're looking for more like things to farm, ways to make their characters powerful. So there's some big changes we're making as part of the Season of Blood, and we can show that here. So now when the player gets into World Tier 3, there's 2 new bosses for them, or 1 returning boss for them to go and engage with. The first is Echo of Varshan, our good boy Varshan that everybody loves, is going to be back in Season 2 for players to be able to hunt down in order to kill, to get various craft materials they can use to summon other bosses later, but also specifically to get uniques that only drop from Varshan. So every one of the bosses that we add as part of the Season of Blood is going to have their own distinct loot list associated with them.
Who is the beast in the ice?
And some cosmetic rewards as well that we'll be able to talk about in a little bit. So that's a reason why you're going to want to go hunt each of these down. Now on this board here, you can see that I kind of like connect the dots in terms of where these things come from. So if you want to go hunt Varshan, you need to go complete Whispers. There's chances for you to find like malignant creatures as you're completing Whispers in the overworld. They have rare chances to occur. And you'll also be able to get these new malignant body parts you need from completing Whisper bounty turn-ins. So when you go and you get your cash reward at the end of a Whisper run, there's a chance for you to have one of the pieces that you need to summon Varshan, reconstitute him. Because in the Season of Blood, there are new layers that have been added around the world. And the lair for Varshan is in a kind of a corrupted hollow, malignant hollow beneath the Tree of Whispers. So right there's an entrance down in where you're able to fight some awesome malignant creatures. No malignant hearts dropping, but malignant creatures certainly down there.
Okay, so the creatures are still there, but the hearts are gone.
And basically throw these materials into this new brazier that we've added to be able to summon Varshan back from the dead to fight him for
that way we can fight Varshan.
Now, one of the new creatures that we're adding is this the Galvanic Saint, which we'll show off some of the new art for some of these characters in just a moment. But this is a new, very lightning-themed boss that players will be able to go and engage with as they complete Helltide content. They will learn Infernal Steel from opening various caches and use this as a way, as part of a new layer, to go and summon the Galvanic Saint and deal with his lightning-themed attacks. And that's actually something that might be worth pointing out. While we're not talking about the elemental resistance changes until next week when Adam comes back with Charles and they talk about all the class changes and itemization updates that are happening as part of the season. It's worth pointing out that several of the bosses in this chain have they are very elementally themed in terms of their attacks. So you should be looking for.
So Lord Zir is going to be a world boss and Legion event boss.
Grigwar, and you'll be looking for cold resist to find from the Beast of Ice later. So we'll talk about that in just a moment. So so that's World Tier 3. This is a way for you to get some of those build-defining uniques you might need to kind of progress to the Sacred Tier, give you those extra rewards as you go. So now we're talking about World Tier 4 for a second. So you've got into World Tier 4.
Maybe?
Echo Varshan is now still available for you to fight in World Tier 4, where he drops ancestral versions of those same unique items. And the Galvanic Saint is also available for players to fight to get ancestral versions of those unique items. So those are still there. Additionally, when you kill Varshan and when you kill the Galvanic Saint in World Tier 4, they drop summoning components that you need in order to summon Duriel, King of Maggots, who is a new level 100 boss that we're adding as part of the seasonal experience.
Level 100.
You have a chance to drop unique items as well as a low chance to drop uber unique items.
So what does that mean, in terms, when you say uber uniques, a lot of people go low chance, there's already a low chance, so what does that mean for a player for uber uniques now with this new system?
That's a great question. You will absolutely know people that have uber uniques after this goes live, and there's a way for you to farm them specifically from going after Duriel, right? It is still not every time you kill Duriel, you're gonna get an uber unique item. They are still very rare relative to other item types. But it's not like it was in the past. Like, you're going to see people in your clan that have uber uniques. You're going to know people that have uber uniques. You have a way to hunt for these, right? In this world. So that's a really, really big push as part of the new seasonal program. Now, there are the two other bosses that I didn't talk about too much. The first is the Beast in Ice. So the Beast in Ice is a new boss that you can go and summon after you start completing Nightmare Dungeons higher than Tier 30. So Tier 31 plus Nightmare Dungeons.
Okay, cool.
85-ish monsters and so on from there. As you fight and complete these Nightmare Dungeons, there's chances for the components that you need to drop at the end of the Nightmare Dungeon you'll be able to use to make a new special Nightmare Dungeon key that explicitly brings you to the Beast in Ice's lair. So that is the way that you're able to summon forth the Beast in Ice and fight them in combat to get their special loot. And they've got some really, really potent items as well. And then lastly, for the new boss we're adding with the season, is we talked about Lord Zir already. While you will be able to confront a story version of Lord Zir as you go through the quest line in World Tiers 1 and 2, there is a much more difficult, challenging version of Lord Zir that you'll fight in World Tier 4 once you're ready for that content. And you'll be able to access and summon Lord Zir this way as you kill world bosses in Season 4 and as you kill, in Season 2 rather, Season 4. As you kill world bosses, yeah, I know, I really am. As you kill world bosses in World Tier 4, and as you complete Legion events in World Tier 4, you'll be able to gather these materials forward and bring them to go and summon Lord Zir. So, a couple extra things to kind of call out here. Actually, why don't we show? I think we have video of these new bosses. Yeah. Okay.
Wow.
You see Grigwar summoning in for the first time. Very excited for players to go and do that fight. The Beast in Ice in his new lair. And of course, Duriel, King of Maggots.
So gross.
Yeah, it's super gross. Very fun. So yeah, these three we obviously still have Lord Zir. We just don't want to show off the boss fight just yet, but you'll get a chance to go and obviously fight a version of him in the quest line and a much more difficult version of him.
An Ace
later.
of Barrier?
But
What?
one other thing worth calling out as part of this, the materials that players are going to be collecting to use to summon forth these bosses. There's a couple advantages. First, if you've got friends, you can try to farm these components up together.
If you've
use
got
that as a way to
friends.
more quickly access these fights and get more chances and opportunities to get some loot off these bosses that you're looking for. But you can also trade these materials between players as well. So if you've got half the things you might need to summon Varshan, but you don't have the other half, you can go on trade chat and try to find the remaining components. Spend the gold necessary to maybe exchange for those things, and then go more quickly summon the boss.
If we don't, what do
and
we
also,
do?
as
Join
you
a
collect these
clan.
materials, you realize you may have overfarmed the materials that you need to summon, and you got the items you're really looking for early enough. Now you have a chance to go and take those and maybe sell those off, to make a tidy profit for yourself, so you can have an easier time enchanting items and other things as you go.
Exactly. Make friends.
Yeah, make friends for sure.
Make
Yeah.
friends, join a clan.
You said this before, but all 5 of these bosses have unique loot tables
Yes.
that have specific uniques on them
Horses?
that you can target.
That's right. So if you're looking for a particular unique item in the game, and we've added a lot of unique items in Season 2 as well that also can all appear on these bosses, you will be able to you will know the sorts of boss you're looking for in order to farm for those items. Right, so if you're looking for something, there is a boss that's going to drop it. You know what you need to go target farm and try to get those items.
Yeah, and what we're seeing here is just some of the kind of almost exclusive.
Can we target from the horse?
Items that you can find off of some of these bosses
Pretty
within
please.
the 5 of them on their drop tables. But then, like Joe
I wanna
and Joe
fly a horse.
have mentioned, you can find unique items off of them. And Uber Duriel has the opportunity of dropping.
That's not money. No.
Uber uniques. And yes,
These are,
you will
special
find
drops from
people
the
and know
bosses.
people that
This is not Battle
and
Pass.
may find yourself an actual Uber uniques with this
This is like the mat
season
armors
for-
and stuff. These are
and going
farmable
forward,
from the
because
bosses.
again, this is in Eternal Realm and this is in
So
every
each one
season
of these
going forward,
bosses
we'll be
drops
adding
one of
more
those
to it.
items, or 2
and
of
I
the
know a
items
lot of
or
people have been
whatever.
asking about unique items and hey, are there going to be any future changes for unique items? And I just want to note because we
But wait
had
till you
been
see the
talking
vampire
about
horse that's
the
coming with the
stream
Battle
on
Pass.
October 10th, where that stream
It
where
looks sick.
we just have a lot to talk about today, so we're actually splitting up the streams. But on October 10th, we're talking more about class balance changes. We're also talking about unique item updates. In fact, nearly every unique item is getting some sort of update in Diablo 4, and we're actually going to be talking more about that on the 10th. So these
You
unique
created a
items are
new
obviously going to
character.
be, big things to actually kind of hunt for players when they are fighting these specific bosses. So there's a lot of stuff to talk about today. We'll have more to talk about on the 10th, and of course we're also going to be talking about resistances more on the 10th with Adam Jackson, and some of the damage bucket changes. I know we have crit, vulnerable, and overpower damage that's also getting kind of adjusted and tuned, kind of what we mentioned in prior
Might as
streams.
well.
So that will all be happening on the 10th. But we got to hear a little bit about the bosses here. Now we do want to talk about some of the gameplay updates and some changes that are coming to Diablo 4, which is a huge list that we actually do have. So it's going to take us be prepared. We got a lot of slides and a lot to discuss here, but we do want to
guys
kind
ready
of
for
jump right
this?
into them so we can kind of get through all of them for sure. And a lot of this, and I do want to preface, a lot of this is based off of things we've heard within the community, community feedback, and also just changes that we most definitely wanted to make to the game to make a better experience for players, especially as we were going through preseason.
This
season
is
one.
some of the
So,
stuff that I was hinting to use about.
Joe, do you want to kick us
Some
off?
of the stuff.
Yeah, and so we can see, I'm going to talk about Scroll of Escape here. I just wanted to mention we're seeing some of the images of some of the mount and some of those item art.
Oh, yeah.
Those are also new cosmetics that are exclusive to that you can get from farming.
That's
farming
correct.
those,
Yes, these are
overbosses.
exclusively dropped from
Yeah.
the various bosses that we're
In
talking
game,
about
yeah.
adding in Season 2.
Yeah.
On Eternal and Seasonal.
And these will, when we say eternal and seasonal, we mean that these are going to persist
Yes.
persist beyond season 2.
That's correct. Yeah, these bosses aren't going to go away at the end of the season. We want to add more things for players to do.
Okay, so yeah, so bosses are staying outside of season.
More updates we want to make to existing content types. We'll talk about some of those things today.
Yeah.
But there's a lot more planned. This is sort of like the first step in like creating more interesting activities for players as they get into World Tier 4, especially as they're thinking about level 100, especially making sure there's more fun things for players to do and engage in.
More for an endgame.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about Scrolls of Escape. It's been a little while coming, but Scrolls of Escape will now be consumed automatically if you disconnect while you're in combat.
I like this.
Because this is a consumable item, we feel pretty good about the case where people are, disconnecting on purpose. You're still going to consume that item, so we feel pretty good about this change. And it always sucks to die to a disconnect in hardcore. Yeah.
Never fun.
Incenses, which are the party-wide version of elixirs, of course, will now grant a bonus to experience, and they will persist through death, so they'll be more useful. Now, this is a big one. We have a bunch of different experience changes that we're going to go over here. You're going to see a few different references to different experience changes. One of the things, and if you're playing Season 1, you'll notice that we did make some adjustments to experience in Season 1 as well. That's sort of, all this is sort of coming together with some changes to how experience is calculated
dying
in
to a
terms of which things are
DC
multiplicative. So
shouldn't exist.
the way this will work is, in general, you've got different kinds of experience bonuses. So you've got maybe a bonus from incenses that we just added, for example. You've got other experience bonuses maybe from seasonal blessings. These are going to add together in a bucket and then be multiplicative with your World Tier bonus. This means that these experience bonuses will be much more impactful in Season 2 than they were in Season 1. In fact, cumulatively, as I said, there are a number of different experience bonuses here. And cumulatively, your time, compared to Season 1,
if you run out of scrolls, then you're cut regardless.
It's going to be 40% faster.
Yep, about 40% faster to reach level 100
than it was in Season 1. Yeah, in Season 2. This is,
why would we do that?
Well, we found that Season 2 is really about, we just talked about all of the boss changes that add more content to do as you're leveling up. We also want players to be able to get to level 100. It's a goal that many players set for themselves, and it should be an achievable goal. And so in Season 1, we saw that there were some players who were getting frustrated. You maybe get to level 75, and you're like, I want there to be more things to do, and this is like, it just feels like it kind of slows down. And we really wanted to smooth that over and make the process of reaching that goal and getting to the end of the season journey feel like an achievable goal for all our players who invest time in the season. And of course, along the way, you're going to be having a lot more cool stuff to do with all of the boss ladder stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean,
yeah, these good changes. I'm very excited about this.
So, as I said, we'll talk more about other changes to experience as we go through this. But moving on for the moment, when you skip the campaign to jump into the world, as many players do at the start of a season, you're going to have more waypoints that start unlocked.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
Compared to previous seasons. That means you don't have to do quite as much running to unlock waypoints as you're going. This isn't every single waypoint, but it's key strategic waypoints that are related to places that you want to go and are centrally located.
Yeah, make it a little bit easier to get around to like whispers that are in rotation as you're like leveling up your character initially. Yeah.
Oh, that's
yeah, and
convenient.
there are some other changes. There's kind of a suite of changes. I was just talking about a number of changes to experience. There's also a suite of changes to sort of town efficiency, and this is the first one we're going to talk about some more in a little bit. This is a big one. I know this is one that's close to Joe's heart in particular. Renown rewards will now persist between seasons. So what this means is that when you create a new character in a season, you can still earn renown. You can still do side quests if that's something that you enjoy doing. You can go and do strongholds. You can do all of those content types. But all of the rewards that are associated with renown will persist. So if you had, and you don't have to, you're not going to have to log in on a different character or anything. Like any reward that you've claimed, if you claimed it in preseason, on Eternal, in Season 1, on any character, you're going to have that reward automatically when you create your new character in season 2, and this applies to all of those obols. It applies to skill points, potion upgrades, all that stuff. Yeah.
It's just nice to be able to start a new character and not feel like you have to go do every single side quest over again to get all of the stuff.
Yeah, and this is something that's a really good point, Antonio, because when we are talking about these general improvements, what these came from is a lot like us, the dev team, playing the game, and I think Joe mentioned this before, but it's really important, playing the game and then reading feedback from players, feedback on social, feedback from videos, everything, and really looking at like what are players asking for, where are there places where we can make the game more fun, because we talked back in season 1, like our goal is to continue making the game more fun for players, right? And so this is really sort of the result of that. And,
yeah, absolutely. I think making sure that players have more choices when they are able to log into their seasonal character right away and not feel like they've got this oppressive goal of needing to completely fill out their renown in order to play optimally for the season. I think is going to be really, really healthy and good for the experience. I'm really excited for players to be able to just be able to carry.
It's going to be nice to actually be able to target farm now.
You're not going to log in like you did last time when we made changes in the past. Now, like after you've claimed these rewards on a previous character, you're just going to have them on the future characters.
That's right. Yeah, and I was going to say the.
I disrupted your flow.
No, it's all right.
Train of thought,
let's go to the next. Let's go to the next bullet. Overworld monsters. Yes. So this relates to another change. We're going to talk about it in a little bit. But overworld monsters will now match your player level in World Tiers 3 and 4. I know that this is in preseason it worked this way, and we ran into some challenges with the game not feeling like you were getting upgrades that really felt powerful, and players rightly called that out. Like, look, I want to get powerful new items, and then I want to smash monsters.
Yeah,
and
you want to feel more powerful.
That's a really core part of the loop. So this change makes these monsters on par with your level. And this is based on reviewing season 1. But it's coupled with some other changes that make sure that that it does feel meaningful and powerful, and you're not just feeling like, oh, I'm just sort of playing catch up.
Yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit more later on.
Okay.
All right.
And of course, at the end of season 1, your season 1 character is going to migrate to the Eternal Realm.
Two additional character
slots to make sure that you have plenty of space for more characters.
Yeah, and one thing I do want to note is like when characters are migrating from season 1 to Eternal Realm, we actually have all that information
How are
is
you?
going to be posted immediately after this live stream. We have a huge blog that will be essentially talking about everything related to season 2, and so all the details about how that actually happens, how that works, will be in that blog. It works very similar to like if you play Diablo 2 Resurrected, you'll know exactly how that works, and it's very similar to that. But all that information will be on a blog afterwards.
Yeah,
So.
we'll
It's
go
not
into
enough for the
detail
alcoholics.
What happens with your items and how they carry over.
Yes.
Yeah, lots of great info there.
Okay, so next I think we have towns. Yeah, towns and vendors. Yeah. So a couple things we've changed here to make towns a little more efficient, and that's like really a focus of ours as we kind of move forward. First up, the occultist is now set up by the Tree of Whispers.
Okay.
So when you go back and you turn in your whispers, there are additional functions you can perform right there without having to like fly off to Kyovashad or anywhere else to go do other work. So that's nice for the loop. We've gone through. We've added stashes much more liberally throughout Sanctuary. This is the first of those changes. So any small town with a waypoint attached to it is going to have a stash near it as well now. So just more opportunity to drop things off or pick things up as you're out there playing, either while you're leveling up a character from 1 to 50 and you just are finding things you want to drop off, or as you are playing in the end game and you're finishing whispers and things nearby. More opportunities to get to a stash.
An occultist
And then,
class?
additionally, we've added stashes to like near a lot of different vendors in capital cities. I think we have a video for this in just a moment, but we'll get to that in just a second, I think. But yeah, we've added more stashes all over the place. And then, of course, purveyors of curiosities. These lovable rogues really tucked themselves away in a distant corner of a lot of the capital cities throughout Sanctuary. We're bringing them closer to the waypoints. We're reacclimating them to society, reintroducing them to the world, and just making sure that they're a lot easier to reach, as you can see here.
Oh my God! Yes, look at that.
Kyovashad, like the Purveyor of Curiosities, is now like right in the tavern. So it's just a lot easier to go
You don't
and
have
spend
to run
orbos
as
you're
much.
accruing them, and it's harder for you to forget that you have obols, for example. You'll get more gear as you are as you're playing.
The purveyor has become more social.
Yeah, become more willing to like integrate with the rest of the people in town. Yeah.
It's like he realized his shady dealings aren't actually going to get punished by anyone, so he just might as well do them out in the open.
Yeah, the law is a rough construct in many ways in Sanctuary. So in this way, that they're back in the good graces.
And I know, like, because we've heard from players like, hey, spending time, they spend a lot of time in town, obviously. Like, if they're going to be at the blacksmith or at the purveyor, at the occultist or anything.
Are you calling me out on this one?
Make that a little bit more efficient, especially if they're going between different areas or different towns. They can now find stashes everywhere, and a lot of it was, thanks to the feedback from players on that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, cool. So I think that's about it for towns and vendors. There's plenty more stuff to talk about.
Yes.
Want to talk about mounts?
Yes, we should talk about mounts. This was something that we talked about before. This is something that
mounts.
Mr. Joe Shelley had posted on the platform known as X, formerly known as Twitter.
Did he make a post on
He made
X?
a post, not a tweet.
Not a tweet. That's
a
different
post.
thing. Yeah.
And we've had a lot of people ask about this ever since that post, and we mentioned that it'd be something that's coming in season 2. So do you want to go through all our changes coming from mounts?
Yeah, let's take a look at them. The first off, there are a number of changes to mounts, but I want to call out that the one that players and we feel is the most significant here is it's just that they're going to get stuck less, right? So when you're trying to turn your mount like in a tight corner, or you're trying to navigate through a narrow space, the mount is going to much less frequently come to a dead stop or slow down dramatically. And part of that as well is mounts can jump over regular jump traversals just like your player, but we're a little bit finicky about it.
They were very finicky.
I think some people didn't.
The rogue will still be faster.
In practice, they didn't always. They were a little bit too scared of jumping over traversals. So we fixed that. It's much more smooth now, so a lot less dismounting as you're traveling around the world. We also increased the base movement speed of mounts. This means that traveling on your mount in town, for example, will be faster. We didn't increase the top speed of the boost, so the maximum boost speed is still the same, but your base movement speed unboosted is going to be 14% faster.
Okay, that's nice.
We also made a change, and this is one that players pointed out. We have sort of a cool. I think it's like a very cool system for allowing the mount to have analog control with the mouse and keyboard. But the consequence of this is that it was sort of finicky. You really had to have the mouse cursor at the edge of the screen to get full speed. And if you had a little bit farther away, you kind of felt like, well, am I actually at full speed? So you really felt like it has to be at the edge of the screen at all times. Because of course, when you're riding through the world, you want to be going as fast as you can, right? Mm-hmm. And so we made a change here. We didn't remove. Some players have suggested let's just make it binary. I should be at full speed all the time. But we made a change that makes it. The cursor is much more generous about allowing you to be at full speed. It's about half or so of the screen. Beyond that, it'll be at full speed. And so you really have to have the cursor close to your mount if you do want to slow down. And because it is still handy for navigating around between tight areas.
So they're just more or less saying mouse and keyboard has been improved.
Yeah, it just makes the mount
controller might be fine.
A little easier to use in general, right? Like it's easier to reach that top speed. You don't have to have the mouse as far away and be planning your path at the very edge of the screen constantly. It's just generally not how people play and when they're moving in the game. Yeah. It's usually a bit closer to their character when they choose their movement options with the mouse. So yeah, feels really good.
I think between the faster mount and moving the important things closer to the waypoint, that is the 40%.
That's the 40%.
That is 41%. Those experience changes are massive. So. Yeah.
This is just additive to it.
But I think it's a great point because as Adam was saying as well, town efficiency is also something that players care a lot about, right? Mm-hmm. So I mentioned the speed, the spur. This is your speed boost on the mount. We increased the duration. The rate at which you you acquire spur charges is the same, so that means that with the increased duration, you're going to be able to be boosted a lot more of the time.
Yeah, maybe more spur up time.
Yeah, quite. It's close to 100%. I think it's pretty significant.
Yep.
And of course, this is great because those pesky barricades that would previously cause your mount to stop.
That'd be so nice that we can run
so
through
you don't
them
need
now.
to dismount unless you want to.
Right. Look at this fancy in slide video. Just added. Like the quality of the production has just gone up. Just as oh, look at this.
We got some production value.
Whoa.
So you can see the player boosting through the barricade there. You also see the player using their dismount skill, and we have some changes related to that as well. So some cooldown changes.
Oh yeah, these are really big.
So as Adam mentioned, I posted about this on social media, and
I like that.
One of the things that we were experimenting with is having the mount cooldown reset after you take a traversal, because of course you get off your mount, you take a traversal, and then there's like a cooldown before you can mount again. It just feels sort of arbitrary, like why that's like slowing down the game for no reason, right? So we tested that in practice. And we found that while it was cool, what was even better is just reducing the base cooldown of the mount across the board. So mount cooldown goes down from 10 seconds to 5 seconds. If you're taking a lot of damage while you're mounted and you get knocked off your horse, the cooldown for getting back on the horse also halved from 30 seconds to 15. And as I mentioned, the dismount combat skill, like this is a really cool skill. We want it to feel like players can use it and feel powerful. So this is actually the cool up on it. When you jump onto your mount, there's a few seconds before you can use it, and 10 seconds felt way too long, so we reduced it to 3.
Yeah, it's much more fun to like just get on your mount, and if you see a pack of creatures that you need for a quest or for a whisper or anything else, be able to just disengage right into them, and start the fight up right away, as opposed to having to like wait. You just end up not using it.
I would like make circles around attacks.
If you have like 2 seconds left or something.
So wait, hold on, monsters. I'm going to do this cool ability.
Yeah,
just
exactly.
Give me a little bit.
Just wait, it's happening. I promise. Yeah. So.
Yeah, very cinematic, but not as fun.
Awesome. So I know now.
Oh God!
Wow. Okay, we have production behind the scenes, by the way, guys.
Yeah, honestly,
they're just smiling back there as they make these like crazy swipes between transitions, but. We are now going to talk about some changes coming for Nightmare Dungeons.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. So Antonio, I know, can kind of take us through all our changes here.
Finally, this is what I'm here for.
This is the moment.
This is what I work on. So,
yes.
We have tons of changes for Nightmare Dungeons coming this season. The very first big change that we have is teleporting to a Nightmare Dungeon from the map. Will take the players directly inside the dungeon instead of to the dungeon entrance. This will cut down on having the double load screens when you just want to go and play more, like grind more Nightmare Dungeons and get your Paragon points up. I think this is a pretty, this will be a pretty popular change. I think this is something that people have wanted for a while, ever since we first implemented teleporting to Nightmare Dungeons.
Get rid of Lightning Storm!
Getting rid of this extra load screen, I think it's going to be a huge boon for me. So I'm supportive.
Get rid of it.
Yeah, right. Okay, and it's funny enough. What is our stream software thing that we use? vMix. People are claiming we're doing this in PowerPoint. It's actually through vMix. So credit to them. There you go. We could have gone the easy way out and done
monster
PowerPoint.
density increased.
No.
Ooh. NPCs no longer get one shot in later worlds. So thank you.
Moving on, back to Nightmare Dungeons. So our dungeon events have more monster density now. And also, more importantly, in higher world tiers, your NPCs will no longer get one shot. So they will not be completely useless, or the events won't be hopeless when you're trying to defend someone from an onslaught of monsters.
I really hate the
in
defend
general, I think
ones.
this is going to be great for just increasing the perceived efficiency of
like they get one shot and it's like, what is
this? Like, my friends and I are like, oh, okay, well, your friends and you are going to be okay. Like, I'm just going to leave.
Yeah, we're looking at dungeon events a lot just between the seasons and player feedback to make sure that they're fun to play and people want to engage.
I'll still let them die.
And this is kind of one of those things that we saw. We're like, yeah, we could do this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So next, we have traps. In our dungeons, the overall readability has been improved, and the crowd control on the player has been reduced. Look at that slow motion.
Slow motion action shot.
So it will be easier to see these, and more importantly, when you do get hit by them, you are not CC'd long enough to where you will just instantly die all the time.
That's good.
I want to call this out so players. I want to make sure players are not confused about this. We're not just talking about CC on the traps, right?
Right. We're talking about just CC across the board from monsters. Just in general, like your CC time will be decreased.
Yeah.
Okay,
so if I get stunned by a vampire knight, I'm going to spend less time CC'd.
Waiting, yeah.
Right. Less time CC'd and less time going back and restarting the Nightmare Dungeon because you died.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is really valuable with increased density, of course, because there are more monsters on screen.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's a pretty extensive amount of changes coming for CC. So when players get a chance to check out the patch notes and everything, they'll see the full run through of all the changes that are coming up for CC.
Yo, the patch note reading. Oh.
Yeah, very cool.
Oh dear.
All right.
What else we got?
Quality footage.
Yeah, I do love this footage.
I can't get enough of it.
Yep.
Oh.
Fragments, interesting. What those are.
And also, our Paragon glyph experience has been increased. This sort of falls in line with like the 40% faster leveling to 100. You also will get your Paragon glyph leveled a bit faster so that as you are leveling up, your Paragon scales effectively with it and you can feel more powerful faster.
Okay.
That's it though, right? Oh no, wait, there's a whole other section.
No, there's more stuff.
Oh, okay, well then sure.
You can't
Talk
have
about...
Nightmare Dungeons without the afflictions,
That's
right?
true. Talk about afflictions.
So we have a number of changes to some of our afflictions. We are
backstabbing is back?
like looking at these and evaluating player feedback. The first one up that I have to talk about is backstabbers. So what it used to be was when a monster attacked you from behind, it just did a set increase in damage, which led to a lot of cases where players were getting one shot, right? So we changed this so that the close monsters attacks from behind will now cause you to become vulnerable, and then that vulnerable damage that you take is increased on a scaling metric.
That means the other
so
ones
the higher
might be back too.
the dungeon tier, the more damage that you will take. This gives you a little bit more opportunity to have a bit of counterplay.
burn.
It's not just all of a sudden like you're dead. You can play around this. You can react to it. If you manage to make a mistake, it's not the end of the world. You can strategize and pivot so that you don't end up just immediately dying.
Yeah, I mean, just that vulnerable condition there does give you that opportunity to sort of see, like, actually, look, yeah, my health globe is cracked now. Yeah, okay, I need to be more careful as I'm getting hit because creatures can do a lot more damage to me 1 minute.
Be gone, resource burn.
For monster critical resist, now the monster attacks reduce the damage of your critical strikes for 3 seconds, and then this also scales by the dungeon tier.
Okay.
So now once again, like if this happens to you, you have the opportunity to play around it, and it's not just completely nerfing your damage the entire time.
Yeah, I mean, people would avoid this one, this affliction particularly, because it was a massive reduction in damage overall, because you didn't have any control over it either, right?
Right. And just in general, what we want to avoid are afflictions that are instant salvage, right? We don't want you to like look at your sigils and say, oh, I don't want to play that, and then just toss it every single time you see it. So this is sort of like a greater effort to make this a bit more fun, so you can see it and know that like it's going to be more difficult, but not unplayable.
Right.
Death Pulse. So we made some changes to Death Pulse. Now we prevent the Death Pulses from monsters that already have death explosions, like the lunatics. And we also prevent death pulses from spawning on top of each other or chaining with each other, so that you don't have to worry about an entire dungeon tile filling up with just death explosions that will one-shot you.
This is such a great change. So many times the lunatic explodes, and I'm like,
Yep.
all right,
Yeah.
I'm all good. And then I run in and like, no,
The
there's
lunatic
more
was bad
explosions.
enough. Yeah. And, yep, no, we're good.
There we go.
There we go. Lightning Storm. Being shocked while in a bubble grants 35% bonus movement speed for 5 seconds. This is a change coupled with the other changes, where it only starts with when players are in combat, and it only starts when you have a direct path to the protection bubble. These holistic changes were basically implemented to make sure that Lightning Storm doesn't slow down your Nightmare Dungeon exploration. What we were seeing a lot was players wanted to get through the Nightmare Dungeons quickly, but when they had Lightning Storm, they had to like stop, run backwards, go hide in a bubble, wait, then make up that lost time, go backwards. So
Players
the movement
wanted
speed
Lightning
bonus
Storm
helps a ton
gone.
because it helps you make up that lost time
Like,
faster.
they wanted it gone.
And then these other two changes mostly focus on some of the more egregious examples where like a traversal is in between you and the bubble and you can't get to it in time, or for some reason it's just a little too far behind you and it's difficult to get to. These will ensure that
Nobody wanted
you
it
know when
changed.
the
We wanted
lightning
it
storm is going
gone.
to happen, and you know there is a way to get to the bubble.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And finally, Drifting Shade. The duration of the Drifting Shade has decreased from 5 seconds to 3 seconds, and the respawn time has increased by 2 seconds. So similarly to Lightning Storm, we didn't want cases where the Drifting Shade pops up and then players spend more of their time running circles around the Drifting Shade than they do focusing on completing the dungeon itself. So this should make it a little bit easier for the dungeons for you to be able to navigate the dungeons with Drifting Shade and not just one.
Drifting Shade is a salvage depending on the dungeon.
That's great.
All right. More.
Yep, more Nightmare Dungeon
More
stuff.
changes to Nightmare Dungeon.
So this is, in addition to Nightmare Dungeons, this is also for our normal dungeons, but we changed some of the objectives for a handful of dungeons. You will see this in the Nightmare Dungeons for this season specifically, but we removed the objectives so that now when you go into the dungeon, all you have to do is really just go find the boss. You can focus on the critical path. There are dungeon events and other things going on that are optional, but if you want to go in and find the boss, you can just go in and go straight to the boss. So we're trying out this change. We're going to see kind of how it works with the dungeons that we've implemented it on, and we're definitely keeping an eye out on player feedback to see how they like it.
I know Rax, who's watching, has a tear of joy sliding down his face right now after hearing that, I'm sure.
And finally, for the Pool of Nightmare Dungeons this season, like we do every season, we've went and evaluated the dungeon layouts and we've redesigned a number of these. So for the ones that do have objectives, we've changed them to limit backtracking even further. But we also wanted to be conscious of making the dungeons just feel too linear.
So basically,
we
just
found a
ways
good
for people to
balance
finish
where
the game
player
stuff
can
faster and then
engage
complain
in
there's
the
nothing
objectives
to
and the
do.
content without having to spend so much time running back and forth, which also contributes to the 40% increase to get to level 100. But as you can see here, here's one of the Nightmare Dungeons that we have for Season 2. In this first objective here, we had our elites that you needed to kill. They were kind of off in the wings, and it created these really bad situations where if you took a wrong turn and then you realized too late that you missed one, you'd have to go all the way back and track that guy down and waste a ton of time. So we moved these objectives to the critical path. So as long as you're just on the main path, on the main loop, you will encounter them. And even if you do make a wrong turn, the penalty for getting back onto the critical path is not that significant.
Right?
So it's like just less downtime in between reaching these objectives.
All right. Next, we have bunch of updates to world events.
Yeah, world events and Legion events and other things.
Yes.
Let's talk about that. Let's bring it up. We have a whole other slide, I think.
There
it is. Yes. So yeah, we've heard feedback from players that they're looking for more uptime on some of these events. They're looking for more opportunities to go and engage with this kind of content.
So now every 25
we made some changes as part of Season 2. So right off the bat, Legion event time between events has been reduced from 30 minutes to 25 minutes. They're going to be more, you'll find them more frequently as you're playing. This is great because you do want to go farm these to get the materials you need to go fight Lord Zir, particularly when you're in World Tier 4. So
we have a reason now to go back to Legion events.
We increased the duration of the warning timer.
Okay.
Moved that from 5 minutes to 10 minutes. One of the big reasons why we did this, and we did this in a few different places, but one of the reasons we did this is in situations where the player's like wrapping up a nightmare dungeon or they're just in an instance, we want to give them a chance for them to pop out and happen to see that warning
3.5 hours.
Don't try to chase that down. We also fixed some minor issues here where Legion event pins would not display at the edge of players' minimaps if a whisper was active for that Legion event. So really, at the moment, we really want players to go after a Legion event. It wasn't really showing up. We made the same change for world bosses. Now for world boss spawns, similarly, we made another change here. We reduced the duration between uptimes for the world boss from 6 hours to 3.5 hours. So these are going to be much more available for players to find and chase down as they play.
Finally.
It was something that, players have been talking about, hey, I have a set schedule, or I'm always at work when these world boss spawns occurs. So now there's more opportunities for players to end up getting their chance at a world boss, which is really good.
Yeah, likewise, we have increased the warning timer for these bosses from 30 minutes to 60 minutes to really let you know when they're about to start. Go plan to go and hit these because again, these have higher drops for the Lord Zir fight, for example, and they still have good rewards attached to them as well. So those are up, and then we also made sure that there's now a message that's broadcast to all players when a world boss is 15 minutes away from spawning. So again, doubling down, making sure the players are aware that the world boss is about to kick off, so you don't have those situations where you just missed it and you didn't
3
realize
hours would have been nice.
So we think that these are going to be some changes that are going to help that quite a bit.
All right.
I like it.
End-game activities.
Yeah, let's go. I can just keep going from here. So one of the things we found in Whisper Caches, it used to be
nice,
when you got into World Tier 3 and you're starting to get your first sacred sigils and such, that when you finish Whisper Cache, you got effectively the lowest sigil tier key from that tier, from that World Tier. So now the way it's going to work is when you go and you turn in all your whispers and you get your new summoning materials for Varshan, and you also get a random nightmare sigil on turn-in, that sigil is always going to be within 5 levels of the highest nightmare dungeon you complete in that tier. So they're going to be more relevant for you based on your current progression as you continue to go.
Okay,
so I think that's going to be a fun change for players. The next, so I really want to hammer down this. So gold rewards from Whisper Caches have been really significantly increased, greatly increased. Greatly increased.
That's why it's in a different color. We want to very much emphasize greatly.
So if you're looking for gold for your build, whether you're trying to do a massive respec of your character and you're looking for the chance to reroll many more times on an item to get exactly the affix that you're looking for, whispers end up being a really great source of gold for you to farm as you're getting into the end game, and remains so as
it's in yellow. That means it's really good.
It's going to be a really, really big change for you to be able to engage with as you play. And then, so next up, I know Joe already talked about some of the changes we're making to experience in other places. Here, we've also made sure that whisper turn-ins, for all your bounties and the Helltide caches, the XP rewards from those moments are much more substantial in this point. We're okay with the idea that that nightmare dungeons remain a really great source of experience for players. That's fine. We want to make sure that Whispers and Helltide features in particular are brought up to feel that they are more competitive with nightmare dungeons. But now that there's also the addition of these summoning materials that you need from these content types,
oh my god, it's amazing.
There are also other rewards, and then even gold from Whispers. There's other rewards you're going to be getting at the same time. So while experience from Whispers is really dramatically increased, be really great, particularly on the 1 to 50, as you want to use more Whispers potentially.
So you have multiple options, Sarge.
There are.
We are recording the entire stream, and we'll have it up on YouTube in a couple of days.
And then, some minor things here. So Whisper Caches,
or you can check
items from
the VOD itself right away and see
that
what
weren't
you
always
missed
tied
out.
to the item slot associated with the cache. So you've gone
But there's
through
a lot
basic
of
changes
stuff.
on the loot side to ensure that that won't be the case anymore. So if you go and you open a boots cache, then
Lot
you're
of
always
stuff.
going to get boots from that cache. So that's going to be a change. That's also, that change has been propagated to the Helltide caches as well. It shouldn't be the case anymore that you end up opening a two-handed weapon cache and you just get a ring or something along those lines. And then also,
October 17th.
Helltide chests now also have specific icons on the map to indicate their type. So if you're trying to figure out exactly where rings could be found or where you could find
October
light
17th.
weapons or whatever else, it's a little bit
Season
easier
1
to
ends
find
and
those
Season 2
things from
starts
the
the
map
same day.
level as you're looking around. So yeah, some good changes for endgame activity stuff there.
Yeah.
All right. Next, we got some UI and UX changes I know that we're putting into the game. Joe, do you want to take us through these?
Yeah, absolutely. So, of course, players have been able to mark items as junk for a while now, and you can once an item is marked as
Quest
junk, you can actually
changes?
sell all junk in
Like,
your
what do you
inventory,
want it for quests?
which is pretty handy. But it's really sort of some players have different ways that they want to manage their inventory. They've got players who are like, I want to go back to town, and then I want to do all this, or I want to do it in the field. And so we want to provide
They
more
didn't say anything
flexibility
about
for
that.
players who like to manage their inventory in different ways to do that. So we've added the ability to favorite items, and of course, this protects from situations where you might have accidentally salvaged or sold an item that is really important. When you use the sort button in your inventory or in your stash, the aspects that have the same power will now be sorted together so that they're easier to find.
Yeah, helps out
that's
a lot
cool.
more when you're trying to dig through your inventory and figure out exactly where things are.
Yeah.
This one is a little bit subtle. So when you're looking at the affixes that are listed on an item tooltip, so maybe you have strength and crit chance, something like that. The sorting of those affixes is now consistent within the type of affix that it is. So if you have two items that both have strength on them, the strength is going to appear in the same location vertically in the list of affixes, which makes it a little bit easier to evaluate
When you're comparing both of
two
them.
items to each other.
Exactly.
And dungeon map tooltips. This is I know.
Did I
Adam, this is
not
one
say
that,
you guys are gonna like
that-
a lot of the
This is
stuff
this
coming?
is one I like. As soon as I saw this, I was like, oh, thank you,
Yeah.
thank you.
So they'll now display, when there's an active whisper, they'll now display the aspect name and the description. It's no longer hidden by the whisper being active on the dungeon.
Yeah, everyone's got one or two things in particular that are fairly small in isolation. They're like, oh, thank God that thing is changed. Like that one thing got updated, which is great. We're excited.
Mm-hmm. Of course, this is a really cool one. You can now search and filter your stash. And I
Well,
think
you
we have
can
video
mark it
of this.
as
This
favorite
includes,
or mark it
text
as
search.
junk.
You've got a bunch of different filters down there. You can filter by item type, item rarity. You can filter by sacred and ancestral items. And then you can see there at the bottom we've got a text box, so you can search for keywords and other text on the item.
Yeah,
And
you
this
have to
searches
mark it
across,
correctly
all your stash
first.
tabs too. So if you take a look at the top there, you can see that well, it's a little bit hidden by the tooltip right now, but you can see that
I would
there are
assume
4
consoles
items
should
in
have
this
this
tab
changed too,
that have
right?
that fill the criteria and none in the other tab. Or in this case, there are 3 in that tab and 1 in the other tab. So they're highlighted, so make it easier for players to search through and find items in their stash.
Yeah, another a hotly requested item from players
Absolutely.
as well. A lot of our UI UX updates in general are, fueled by feedback that we've received either through social media or on our forums.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, makes sense.
We have some more. Players that want to hide identifying information, like character names or BattleNet tags for other players, can now find these settings in the social options.
Finally.
That's right, streamers. You got streamer mode.
Streamer mode.
And this
Thank
is a one that we've seen a lot of feedback on. Players want to be able to hide vulnerable, the status effect texts, so vulnerable, dodge, fortified. This is an option that's been added to the to the menu to hide those, so you can hide them along with hiding the combat numbers.
Yeah, this is a direct response to everyone on X and other media platforms that will text on a regular basis asking for this option.
Yeah, they'd be like, I can hide the numbers, but I can't hide,
Yeah.
you know, 4 to 5, 4 to 5.
Totally fair.
4 to 5,
Happy
4
to
to
get this
5.
out to players. Yeah.
And we've added an auto run feature, so
Yes!
you can bind a key to auto run, and then you can the character will run in the direction that
Oh
they're
my
facing
God.
on a controller, or the direction that you the mouse cursor, where the mouse cursor is located. So
Auto run until
can
you
start
die.
auto
Let's
running,
go.
And then you can review your inventory, bring up the map, do those kinds of things.
Awesome. And then we have a lot of...
One more thing.
Oh,
This I don't want to forget.
I'm
this
like,
one.
see, we have so much stuff, and I know... I try to get ahead of myself, and
Yeah,
I'm like,
but
let's
this
go
one,
to the next section.
this one is important. Antonio was talking about the improvements to
Yeah.
Nightmare Dungeons to help navigate through them. This change to the minimap significantly zooms out the base zoom level of the minimap, and this will really help players navigate through towns, navigate through some areas of the world that are sort of more dense in terms of terrain and obstructions, and navigate in dungeons. This means that when you're in a dungeon, you can see more of the dungeon layout that's near your player on the
I like
minimap than you
that.
did before.
Yeah, if you're approaching a fork in the overworld, you're not
More
sure
zoom
which way
is
it leads back
nice.
to the main trail. Like this is definitely a huge benefit for players.
And I know now I can get ahead of myself here. We
go
have a lot of updates regarding items as well
Yes.
that we do want to
Yeah.
kind of go over. So, Mr. Joey P.
Oh yeah, sure. Happy to talk about some things. So yeah, we made some few changes. I know that some things we've already talked about a bit before, right? But here, gems no longer drop directly as rewards. Now players can be earning these new gem shards, these fragments materials they can
please, dear
use
God,
in the
yeah.
controller to craft their own gems. So basically, as you're wandering through the world and you're killing monsters, you're opening chests, you're gonna be dropping these fragments as you play, and rather than having like individual items that go into your inventory, these shards are gonna go into your materials tab, and then as you want to create gems, you can go back to the jeweler. You can spend those fragments to create gems rather that will go into your inventory that you can then slot on items the way that you like. So it basically takes all of those gems that have been randomly appearing from completing events and opening chests out of your inventory, and gives you the option as the player to choose when you want to go and create gems that you need for your items.
And just to make sure people are aware, like, of course, when you do create a gem, it does then appear in your inventory, which then allows you to then, of course, sock it into an item. But now you won't be finding all
Next
those
week's
gems
stream, they're
out
going
in
to
the
talk about
world
resistances.
that will fill up your inventory. Those will just appear as materials.
So on the 10th,
That's right.
that's
Within your
the
material
next stream.
And you'll also be able to salvage those gems that you do
Yes.
create,
Correct.
and then use those materials to go and create better gems. So yeah, big changes there. It frees up a lot of inventory space. Feels good. Enchantment cost been updated. What a strange settle line,
What a
right?
very general
So
line.
the ultimate thing here that I want to cut to is enchantment costs overall have been reduced, but the way that works out is that your initial enchant cost is going to be a little bit higher than it is currently for your first enchant, the first time you do it. And then the progression of the cost of that, of re-enchanting that item, is going to go up much more slowly over time, and it's not going to spike quite as quickly. So players overall, it's going to be a little bit less expensive for players to go and try to re-roll items to their heart's content to find things they're looking for. And this partnered with the changes that we made to Whisper Bounty cash turn-ins, where you get like way more gold from the at those
First
moments.
cost 100 mil, right? And then it's going to get
Significantly
cheaper.
increase in those situations are going to help those defer a lot of those costs for players if you don't end up using a lot of that gold to go and trade and do other things instead. So yeah, big changes there. Okay, so another really big change here is that when players get into higher world tiers, I'll read the line and then I'll explain it. So crafting materials will drop in place of lower item power, normal magic, and rare equipment in world tiers 3 and 4. What do I mean when I say that? What I mean is when you go into world tier 3 and you start getting sacred items dropping for monsters, you will find that you will no longer be having normal items dropping for monsters. The only items that will drop for monsters in world tier 3 will be sacred in nature, their equipable gear, right? So instead, when you would have got like a rare item before, that is going to be, you're going to get crafting materials that you can use instead, dropping on the ground if you just go run over and pick up, as opposed to having that rare item in your inventory. Now, this is another one of the reasons
That's
why we
actually
made
really
this
good,
big
yeah.
change, the Whisper Gold increase. We made some other gold increases as well, to basically offset any concerns that players might have about needing to sell off all of those typical rare items, as they're progressing through. Now, I will say that if a legendary item drops for you that is of normal quality that you could have got level 50, in World Tier 2, if a legendary item drops for you, that will still appear for you in World Tier 3. So that you're not going to be losing out on legendary items that potentially could drop for you in part of the experience. When you go into World Tier 4, only ancestral items will drop for you as you're playing. You will no longer see sacred items or normal items from that point forward. Once again, legendary and unique items in that case of sacred nature or normal nature will still continue to appear for you as you continue to play. But for the most part, getting a ton of these items out of your inventory as part of this change.
Yeah, it's this and the gems changes are going to help out a lot with inventory management for players and ensure that they're focusing on like the items that they're really going to want, and then of course getting the benefit of getting all the materials now from the items that we're dropping beforehand. They'll just now be materials that will be in their materials tab.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that's not even the end of the big changes we have planned. So another thing that we're doing as part of season 2, and again, this is on the Eternal Realm and also in the seasonal realm, is that when you start to go into World Tier 3 and 4, items that are dropping for you are going to get more powerful based on the monster level that you're fighting. This is in response to.
I'm usually done stream at this time, so
feedback we've been receiving.
This is when my IRL stuff starts kicking in.
Season 2 represents the first really great opportunity that we've had to spend a good amount of time, kind of responding to this feedback, getting things tested, getting things into the game. So we're really excited to offer things like this. But there's situations where players will get into World Tier 3. They'll finish off a lot of the gear that they need inside Sacred Tier fairly early. 50, 55, 56. They start getting ready to make the transition potentially early into World Tier 4 to get into their Ancestral Tier. And then that can end up in a situation where by the time that you are level 65, 68, 70, you've kind of collected all the ancestral gear that you can get, minus uniques you might still be hunting for. Once you get into that tier. But you might have already got all of the gear that you're looking for, particularly eye power.
No, it's not useless to continue. You can still keep farming your battle pass.
Is that starting
if you haven't finished it yet?
I guess we'll talk about Sacred Tier first. So if you fight a level 55 monster, you'll have the typical sacred eye power range when you're fighting that creature. When you fight a level 56 creature, the eye power minimum and maximum of that range increases by 2. So every monster level from that point forward, the eye power of the potential output of that item is higher as a result of that, to encourage players to want to go and try to fight higher level, more difficult creatures as they're progressing through the game. When we talked before about the monster trailing,
I need to finish the story on my druid.
The monster level trailing change we made earlier in the presentation today. Joe mentioned that was kind of aligned with some other things we're trying to do to make sure players felt they were getting more powerful as time progressed. And part of that is ensuring that players have a sense of progress as they go. And when we think about sacred and ancestral progression, when you're getting into that part of the game, one of the things we've wanted to try to ensure is that players do have the time needed to go and kind of gather items of value that they can use to put their build together. But we don't want the player to feel like in an effort to hit that solution, the feeling of not feeling and not getting any real progress past level 70 in this case, if you're getting into your ancestral gear fairly early, that's not worth the cost of making sure that you've got your time to get your things together. So instead, we want to make sure that you have opportunities for upgrades as time goes on, right? So in World Tier 4, starting at level 75, you'll have the typical range, but then that continues to go up by 2, for every monster level above that, so, going up pretty high. Once you get to level 100, now you're dealing with ancestral items of eye power potential of 920 at that point. And that's just at level 100, right? Once you start fighting higher level monsters than level 100, and you're fighting like level 101 monsters, level 102 monsters, the minimum range of the item output goes up by 1 for every monster level from that point forward. So you'll get to a point where you're fighting level 150 creatures and such, that the eye power range of that item, 175 monsters and such, the eye power ranges of those items are effectively on par. They are, it's like 920 to 920 is like the end result long term as you go deeper and deeper into the system.
Yeah, so you start to shrink down that window.
Yeah, you slowly shrink down that window so that as you're getting drops for yourself in the world and in Nightmare Dungeons and other content types, it's much more likely to get the maxed out eye power rolls that you're looking for. Now, one change we didn't make as part of this is we didn't.
So now it finally
change
gives us a
the
reason to
ranges
farm the higher
on
tier dungeons
affixes
now.
that are attached to these. So the change that we're talking about here is getting you more weapon damage on your weapons, more armor value on your armor pieces, and more of the inherent resistance, which is so much more important now in season 2 than it was in the past, attached to your jewelry. So that will continue to grow as you get more eye power for these gear pieces. So now this is naturally going to push players to fight more difficult monsters, and we want that. We think that's fun, right? But that's not, we want to make sure that other content pieces also provide the opportunity for meaningful rewards as well. So one other change that we made here for Whispers, for example, is that the caches that you get at the end of a Whisper turn-in, the rewards for that are actually 10 eye power better. We should say that they're 5 monster levels higher than what you would normally get. Because usually rewards that you get from these caches are based on your character level at the moment that you turn these things in, based on the world tier that you're in. Now there's an offset, so you get additional item power value from the items that you get from that cache normally. And then, in addition to that, the upgrade caches, the legendary cache that can occasionally appear when you're turning in your Whispers, those are going to give you 20 eye power above what your level is at that moment. Meaning these end up being compelling ways for players to want to go and try to collect rewards from engaging with these systems. Again, while they're earning tons of gold, and also while they are getting materials they need to go and summon the Echo of Varshan in World Tiers 3 and 4. And then next, of course, is Helltide caches also benefit from this same change. In that all Helltide caches, starting right in World Tier 3, have a 20 eye power offset attached to them for the rewards that come out of that. Now, a question that might get asked is, does that mean that that eye power value is going to go above the cap of what Sacred or Ancestral would normally provide? And the answer is no. So this does not mean that the very best items in the game are going to be delivered to you from Whisper caches and Helltide caches. Only that these changes allow these cache systems to provide meaningful rewards much longer into progression.
And again,
it was just tied to level.
And again, the eye power cap is you mentioned
920 for Ancestral.
920.
Yeah,
there you go. Because I know there's a lot of people asking 820, 920. So
we think that these are going to be some good changes for players to feel that they're getting some of those upgrades as they play through those content tiers in World Tier 3 and World Tier 4. They have a smoother journey as they continue to level up their character. This mixed with like the experience point changes and a lot of the Nightmare Night stuff that we talked about so far, represents a big, basically us trying to respond to like our experiences playing again, and then the feedback from players.
I'm gonna like go back to 20 minutes or 30 minutes ago when we were talking about the 5 bosses and being able to progress through them. One thing that we talked about Uber Duriel and how
Duriel, king of maggots.
Exactly.
Uber Duriel.
Exactly.
Yeah, Adam just said Uber Duriel. Wait a minute.
But with all these new bosses, because they all have their own loot tables and everything associated with them, at least with Duriel, because
was that a slip?
In
slip of
itself
wording?
is a level 100 boss. So what type of item power can you expect to find off of like Duriel?
Yeah, you'll find eye power 920 stuff off Duriel. So there are unique items that Duriel drops that are only, some of them are very new and they're coming in with Season 2, that only come from Duriel that are just really powerful, right? And then there are the uber unique items that drop as well. Now, for the unique items dropping, there is a tighter range versus relative to other bosses and other things. In general, unique items that drop from these bosses they're not going to roll the full 75 eye power range. They're much tighter across the board as you kind of step up into the more powerful bosses. So I think the eye power range for Duriel, the eye power range for Duriel is much smaller than 75. I don't remember exactly what the range is specifically for that number, but that is increased. But the uber unique items that drop from that have a chance to drop, low chance to drop, but still will certainly drop from Duriel. Those are always rolled at cap, so they're always rolled at the highest eye power possible, and all of the affixes on the uber unique also always roll at the highest values possible. So when you get an uber unique item, there's not a better version of that specific uber unique item that you can get. That's always the very best one.
Yeah, so if you find a Shaco, you've got the very best version right there. So
yeah, you have it. Yeah,
that's awesome. Nice, cool. Well, I know we just went through a slew of changes and updates coming to the game. And again, to reiterate, we still actually have more to talk about.
Yeah, we didn't talk about classes.
We didn't talk about unique items. We didn't talk about unique item changes.
We didn't talk about the damage buckets.
And I will note, unique item changes, like I said before, pretty much almost all unique items, or nearly all unique items, are getting some sort of update, which we will talk about on October 10th. I know a lot of people have asked for Mr. Adam Jackson to reappear, and he will be back on October 10th to talk about all the different class changes that are coming.
And he has been summoned.
Welcome on in.
He has been summoned. He's on vacation.
He's on vacation.
We got the materials.
He's watching though.
We got the materials to summon.
But yeah, we're going to be talking about all that stuff. We're also going to be talking about the resistance changes and stuff that we've been talking about already today, and how it's going to be much more valuable for people to be ensuring that they have it on like rings and all those other.
Well, and there are changes to we're gonna get into it, but there are changes to the way that it works. So. Like, folks at home might be saying like, oh, there's a resistance boss, but like with the current resistance system, how is that going to work? And the 1010 stream is really going to explain it, how those changes work. And,
Exactly. And I will also note that on the 1010 stream, we will even be talking about the first update that will be coming even after Season 2 launches. And that's something that we can briefly talk about here, which is after Season 2 launches, we'll of course have additional updates that will be coming within the season, and each of these updates are going to be adding new things, new ways of being able to enjoy the content, and new features that players have been asking for. So we'll be actually showcasing what 1-1 will be in that October 10th stream as well. So people will get an early look of what the first update post Season 2 launch will be. And of course, we have a lot more to even talk about at BlizzCon. So if you are going to be at BlizzCon, make sure to check it out. Of course, we'll be streaming, and there'll be more information about, the BlizzCon collection items and everything that will be available for players to be able to partake in. That will have items within Diablo 4, and of course items from other games that are going to be featured at BlizzCon, like World of Warcraft, Overwatch, and all the others. So.
But most importantly, at BlizzCon, you can bug Adam in person.
Yes, you can bug all of us in person at BlizzCon. So make sure to, if you are going to be coming to Anaheim, to check it out. And if you're interested in coming, of course, you can grab a ticket to BlizzCon, which is in early November. So. Good. First weekend in November, Friday and Saturday. All right. One other thing that we did want to talk about is there's some changes that are coming in regards to Smoldering Ashes.
Can we please show me the battle pass
the feature
here?
of the battle pass, because we've gotten a lot of feedback from players, and this kind of ties back to the experience items that we were talking about, where the tiers of the Smoldering Ashes were pretty deep in, and you would already be like a higher level and everything like that. And I know one of the big changes that we're doing is the character level requirements for those specific tiers with Smoldering Ashes have been reduced. So players will now actually run into those Smoldering Ashes and be able to use them. And they will automatically unlock now, which is really nice. Earlier within the actual battle passes they're playing through, which is
so if you happen to miss one when you're leveling up, which I think happened to a lot of players, certainly happened to me. It's like so now when you go back to the when you go and you actually open up the battle pass, you'll see that you've already unlocked those Smoldering Ashes. So you can go and spend those in your season blessings and benefit from them right away.
On new season blessings, yes, there are 3 new season blessings for season 2 that will be part of the new battle pass, of course. And of course, one other thing with the battle pass is there is going to be new town portal skins that will be unlocked
and that's 3 drinks,
available for players as well. So of course, you can now change from blue town portal to different color town portal if you'd like, and there will be other town portal skins available in the battle pass as well. So
I like this angelic sort of feel to this
one.
Very cool.
Yeah, you can look like you're friends with Imperius or like best friends with Imperius with your new town
and again,
portal.
The free track.
Exactly.
Yep.
Imperius, Inarius, sorry.
Well, any of the angels.
Technically,
just pick
it would be more
angel.
orange, I would say, if it was Imperius to match him. So I've been playing some Heroes of the Storm lately. So
love Heroes of the Storm.
I've got Imperius on my mind right now. Well, we do actually have one other big news thing that we did want to actually talk about today as well, which is we are bringing more Diablo 4 players into the world, because we're here to announce that Diablo 4 is actually going to be launching on Steam with the launch of Season 2. So on October 17th, Diablo 4 will be available on Steam. Nice part about being on Steam, of course, is it carries over the same Elements is all the other or all the other platforms. So cross play, cross progression will work immediately. Day one for anyone who does purchase on Steam. And so if you have friends on Battle.net and they prefer to play on Steam, they can of course play together from both sides, which is awesome to see. So wishlist will be available immediately after the stream for Diablo 4 coming on Steam. It's really nice if you if you have a Steam Deck, it's another option of being able to play Diablo 4 because you can now take it like on the road with you, which is really good to see. So,
yeah, sure.
Yeah, lots of
Sanctuary on the go.
Sanctuary on the go, yeah, which is good. And by the way, cross progression and everything, of course, that works with the console players as well. So if you're playing on Steam, you'll of course be able to play with Xbox and PlayStation users from that end. But I'm really impressed, by the way, that we got through a lot of content here in a pretty efficient manner.
So fast.
We actually are going to go through some Q&A from everyone in Twitch chat. So if you actually have a question,
I feel like I'm getting scammed here on not seeing my pass.
We'll try to grab as many questions as possible, and I'll use my trusty iPad and ask the questions, and of course call out people's names and attempt to pronounce them correctly. But I know we will start off with one first question here as we grab more. Within the group, but what plans do you have for itemization?
Yeah, so we've obviously got a ton of feedback about the feeling of earning rewards in Diablo 4.
Somebody ask about Battle Pass.
The feeling of like the power of those items and how interesting they are and how easy they are to compare and what the path towards getting like perfect items feels like, and really what players are meant to do once they reach like that threshold of the game where they're trying to like fully perfect their build. We have a lot of ideas of things we want to add on the itemization side in Diablo 4. The sorts of things I talked about earlier in the item section, like those really are just like some first small steps of the sorts of things we want to do. But we're reading through all this feedback. We have all like really interesting ideas and designs that we're working on the side. We're excited to be able to bring those things to you over time. And we'll be talking about more of them in the future. But yeah, we have big plans for itemization for Diablo 4.
Yeah, I mean, really the
right,
keys
that
here
too.
are more endgame stuff and improvements to itemization.
I don't care. He can call me asshole. Just give me my battle pass.
Quick question here from Cursed47. It's great to improve mounts, but what will you do to fix and address open world items? Teleporting from Nightmare Dungeons.
See, if I tag him
in isn't very fun.
In our
wasn't the best way to
team
fix
area,
the
I don't know
time
if he'll
issue.
see
Is there
it
more
because
plans for open world
busy.
Elements using mounts? Sometimes doesn't feel like it matters after a certain point.
Yeah, I'm not sure what is being asked there.
They're asking if there's going to be like some more plans for some like open world content or anything that will be on the open world. I think a lot of this ties back to some of the stuff that you're actually seeing in Seasons, because Seasons actually ends up adding a lot more content to the open world, even with Season 2, with us being able to add additional objectives and everything for players to actually grab.
Yeah, there are, we want to have a mix of gameplay that occurs in dungeons, which is, core Diablo gameplay, and gameplay that's occurring in the open world. And so with Season 2, you see things like the
Blood Harvest.
The new Blood Harvest, exactly. And some of the changes like the monsters being on level with you in open world, and the changes that Joe talked about with item power based on monster power. Right?
Yeah, in addition to that, just making sure that the various activities we have in Diablo 4 feel more rewarding to engage in on their own. One component of that being that the summoning materials that you need to go and farm these bosses that you want.
I'm actually shocked that they didn't really show it this time very much.
Material as well, for those uber unique opportunities. Like these represent, I think, good steps forward to kind of make these content feel more compelling in general. But as we continue to march forward and we're looking at, we showed the content chart earlier with like all of the bosses and the way that we're sort of thinking about various parts of the endgame experience. There's a lot of room there for us to continue to create more distinct activities that appeal to different kinds of players, and also just continue to bring out like various kind of parts of Sanctuary to make things more fun and engaging for players. So this really is, again, like just the first step of the sorts of things we want to continue to add and inject into Diablo 4 over time, right? And adding more content to the overworld is a part of that. Particularly like, content that has like high monster density and is like fun to go and engage with and slaughter monsters in.
Adding it and the relevance of the content in the world, right? Because if there's content in the world but it's not relevant, then you're just riding past it, right?
That's absolutely right. Yep.
We have a question from these names. Legless puppy, which probably rolls around on wheels, and it's probably a cool puppy.
That sounds
for sure.
really sad, actually, in a way.
Well, I mean, if they're on wheels, that's pretty cool.
I mean, I guess if it has wheels.
Yeah.
Sure.
Rolling on some good rims or something.
Okay, I guess Adam likes taking legs off puppies, but weird take.
Is there any chance of the level cap being removed off of Paragon glyphs?
Joe,
Yeah.
do you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure. So so we have talked before quite a bit about how we look at power progression in Diablo 4. Particularly, we talked a lot more about this like before launch, and a little bit before Season 1. But Diablo 4 is designed with the idea of kind of cap power progression sort of in mind. We want to make sure that we find the right ways for players to continue to grow the power of their characters as they continue to engage in the game. We will be looking for more opportunities for players, particularly as they reach level 100 and they're looking for more ways to get stronger and get more powerful. We want to find more ways for them to do that feel in ways that feel compelling and are fun and don't feel like this extra.
Well, I'm going to be getting it anyway. I just want to see what the costumes look like.
I think if I think about the reasoning behind that question, I think part of it comes down to, we talk about cap power progression, which has good reasons, like you're talking about, but also players are saying like, well, I ran out of stuff to do. Can there be more stuff to do, right? And so increasing the Paragon glyph cap could be one way to do that. The way we're doing it in Season 2 is through all of the endgame boss summoning mechanics.
Yeah, the endgame boss summoning mechanics, and then the vampire powers people level up as you go through the season,
yeah.
right? But yeah, it's not even just having more things to do. It's making sure that there are more things to do that impact the performance of my character, and I feel like there's more ways I can get stronger.
At endgame progression. Yes,
right.
Yeah, that's a much better way to say it.
No. Yeah, but I think that it's all fair, right? I think that there's room here for us to continue to add more of that, add more to that experience, particularly as the players level 100.
Yeah.
I look forward to more of those, updates as we continue to kind of march along.
Yeah.
Mavastra says, could we have a Paragon board reset button? Or be able to buy reset scrolls for a set amount of gold or something. Won't talk about anything today, but
we'll look into it.
Wink.
Yeah, what an interesting idea.
Wink.
What an interesting idea.
There you go. Yeah. Cool. Next question
you heard it, guys. You heard it.
Is
Wink.
from.
Finally.
I'm trying to pronounce these names.
Unleash the lobster. I'm actually surprised he's sleeping right now.
EYV. Question about Uber Uniques. Is there a chance for you guys to improve Uber Unique stats?
So Uber Uniques are going to be one of those things that are going to get discussed.
The only thing we need left now is presets.
Adam is on
like,
talking
please, dear
about
God.
the content changes for classes and the various like item bucket changes and things, or the affix and skill bucket changes they've made. So I think that's a good question for that group to answer as part of that conversation. But I suspect that there are opportunities for us to make some improvements, particularly with some Uber Uniques.
Yeah. JJ Lafrite says, is the stash search usable for legendary powers and affixes?
They didn't say anything about it.
You can search through those. So it'd just be, searching through the box or anything like that, because we do have that field that lets you actually look that up specifically from that end. Nelix87 says, are there any plans to give clans some love? Currently, clan management is very limited. Clan leaders and their officers has very minimal tools to track anything related to the clan. Are there maybe plans for clan stashes or more opportunities for clans to actually be able to, share?
Yeah, we'd love to add more social options, and in particular clan management tools, more cool things for clans to do together, and that's something that we'll have more to share on in the future.
Peter Odin says, will we be receiving more coins in the Battle Pass instead of 666? And I know that there is a change this season for the Battle Pass, because there was a lot of feedback where players would receive Platinum, and then they wouldn't be able to actually end up using that Platinum to be able to grab something from the shop. You will be able to use Platinum from the Battle Pass this season, because there's going to be options now that will meet that specific amount. So players will have some options available to them from that end. Bisepulus? Look, I pronounced it right. How many? Proud of myself. How many uniques will you add every season? Any news on set items?
So no news on set items just yet. So in terms of the number of uniques we're adding every season, we've been sticking to around 6 so far. There are more than 6 as part of season 2. So we'll talk more about that. I believe in the blog we talk about some of these numbers. But yeah, I think there's more than, I think there's like 12 uniques in season 2 right now. Yeah. We'll be continuing to evaluate these counts as we go, but now that there's ways for players to farm these things, we're excited about trying to find more opportunities to inject some of them. But we also want to continue to add new legendary aspects as well, and more ways to kind of like create that build and kind of earn it more, before you hit like World Tier 3, right?
Yeah, and in general, season 2 is represented. Like we think that there should be more in a season, and season 2 is representative of that direction.
Yeah. Question from Fletchy. Good name, not biased at all. How is Duriel going to compare to Echo of Lilith regarding difficulty?
Yeah, that's a really good question, actually. So Echo of Lilith is our pinnacle challenge boss. She is very, very difficult. We've made some adjustments to her to make her a little bit easier for players of different builds to take down, which I think you've seen some of those changes even during the course of Season 1. But in Season 2, Duriel is designed not to be at that same level of difficulty. He is a little bit easier because you can use all the materials to go and fight Duriel, and you could fail. Right, so like we want to make sure that if you have gotten your build together and you know the fight really well and you've got the proper amount of poison resist, which I recommend, that's going to make it a little bit easier to engage with overall versus the hard mechanical challenge that Lilith poses kind of separately. So Duriel is going to be less difficult overall to overcome than Lilith in this way.
I'm going to try to combine 2 questions into one here because I think they're pretty similar in terms of, or at least we can talk about them both together. Team Loose Leaf asks, will the 5 new bosses you target farm be a permanent addition after season 2? Don't answer that yet. Oh, you already did. But we can. Thanks, Joe. But
you have to say it before.
I did. I was saying I was going to combine
two.
And then now I can't even find the other question, but it was related to. Oh, here it is. Fat Teppy says, "Do you guys have any plans for Eternal Realm content, something permanent that isn't just seasonal?" Which I do want to note because Joe just mentioned. Yes, the boss ladder items that we were just talking about will be going beyond season 2, and then they also will be part of the Eternal Realm day 1 with season 2. So even Eternal Realm characters will be able to partake in farming those specific bosses
and the items,
and the items themselves. So.
And the other side of that is just we're going to be adding more content to the Eternal Realm beyond just these bosses. Yeah. When we talk about, like, when we showed the chart of the content types before, and, oh wow, it's already ready, already prompted. When we showed these things out before, once again, as a reminder, we do see that there's a lot of space in here for players in Eternal Realm and in Seasons to go and engage with different kinds of content at different points in progression. So we are excited about trying to provide more of those opportunities as we kind of continue on in development for Diablo 4. It's part of making the game better, is making sure that it's more fun at those stages, particularly World Tiers 3 and especially World Tier 4.
Yeah.
Question from Ice Gammon. Have you guys given thought to being able to craft specific nightmare dungeon,
I would like that.
rather than crafting over and over to get a specific dungeon?
Yes. We are still kind of talking about how we want players to engage in Nightmare Dungeons and what makes it most fun for them. So we're in constant conversations and we're looking at gameplay and analytics and also just general player feedback. And we're taking all of these things into account. So it is one of the things that we're thinking about.
All right. Question from Digital Wizard 91 regarding endgame boss mechanics. Is there any visual improvements to the readability of their attacks compared to other bosses or other encounters that we've had?
Yes, there have been.
Yeah, I think you'll.
I would
showed
do it for
really
sure.
brief.
We showed some of the stuff on traps, right? But there are other visual improvements.
Yeah, and we even showed the boss quick little intros as they're kind of coming in.
Right.
But you can, at least with Gregor, you can kind of see some of his mechanics that are in play there regarding the tiles, and you can clearly see where they're going to be hitting when encountering this specific boss. So yeah, there are some changes for sure on that. BR Bulbul.
Oh my god.
Bulbul. Are you going to be able to save builds to a wardrobe like Diablo 3? Potentially.
Stop.
Oh, builds, yeah, like you can with transmogs right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is something that we'd like to add in the future.
In the future.
And
I think
then
you said that on stream before, actually. Now that I think about
yeah,
It continues to be true.
it. Yeah, continue to be true.
has not changed. Is there any plans for this from Intrepid Gamer? Are there any plans for like adding a trade interface where players aren't having to actually use like
You know,
other
he's like, it's that
third-party
time of the
tools,
day.
like
What are you doing?
Discord or something like that to
Oh,
potentially
sure.
find opportunities to find other users that might have that.
Yeah, there is some light functionality baked into trade chat right now, but I think we're really, as part of the season, like with the material trains can be available for players to use to summon bosses. I think we're starting to see players begin to stress the systems that we have, and based on their feedback, it's going to advise a lot of how we want to like think about trading in the future for Diablo 4.
Yeah.
So that's going to tell us about like UI UX enhancements we want to make, and just general like improvements to the kinds of things you can trade, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Arcadium OW says, previously the idea of permanently upgrading our Codex of Power with extracted aspects was discussed. Are you guys still interested or looking into this?
We want to make the Codex of Power better in ways like that, and we'll have
I'm
more
hoping
to
the stream
share
is done
on
in
that
like the next like 2 minutes.
It's an interesting idea.
Yeah.
And I know there's a lot of people
My
chiming
gosh.
in specifically in chat about like things like leaderboards, which we've already talked about. That is actually a
Coming in season 3. Yeah.
season 3.
Well, no,
feature.
just my
So,
mom called. So
leaderboards are most
she's
definitely
on her
coming,
way
and
over.
those
She's
will
got to
be,
bring me
available in season
something.
3. Pugina
So I can't
TV
do like
says,
an
"Do I need to buy
AFK
the game
during
again in
this. I
Steam,
gotta
or is
like
there,
literally turn off
any
everything because I don't know how long it's gonna
use of it
take.
in Steam if I bought it before. You don't need to buy the game again on Steam. It's your choice. If you prefer to play on
Exactly.
Steam, you can. Or sorry, let me clarify.
Like,
You
I
do
know
need to
it's
buy
just
the game again on
Q&A
Steam
time,
if
so
you
it's
want to
not
play
like
it
a
on
super
Steam.
big
But if
deal.
you already have the game, of course, you have the
But-
option of playing it on the other platforms, specifically from that front. There's some people that prefer to purchase games on Steam and have it available there. So they have that option now, starting with Season 2 on October 17th, when the game becomes available on Steam. So, trying to think here. I've now lost track of where I was because I was going down the
Right.
list. Legless Puppy again has another question.
What? My question.
Diablo, or at Diablo, is there
Battle
any
Pass.
changes planned for glyph experience cap, removing or increasing the level cap on glyphs?
No.
Will give us more
No.
reasons to run.
The only
Nightmare
thing you'll have to
Dungeons on
buy
these.
is the battle pass if you
Yeah,
want
I
premium.
kind of answered this a little bit before. So we are looking at ways to make sure that players feel like they've got good progression opportunities once they reach like level 100. They've capped out some of these sorts of systems. The exact contents of that, or like exactly what we're going to do, we're not ready to talk about just today.
Yeah.
But we are definitely aware of the interest in that
What?
particular solution, for example.
Yeah, I mean, we talked a lot about the changes in Season 2 that relate to leveling up to 100. And a natural consequence of this is that more players are going to reach 100.
Yep.
And that means they need content to do. And that's something that we're spending a lot of time thinking about right now.
VZAT says, can Duriel drop 920 item power rare items or just Uber uniques?
I've only
No,
bought one
the
costume so
items
far.
that drop from Uber Duriel at that stage are not going to always be, like the rare items won't always
But I'll be getting,
920 eye power. They're gonna follow
Probably the
same range
druid
because we're level
weird
100 monsters.
Mother's
There's still
Embrace
75
costume
eye
thing
power
before
swing on a rare
season
item
1
drops
ends
from
because
Uber
they'll be
Duriel.
gone before,
Or the
at the end
Duriel
of the
King of
season.
Bandits, right? So that's really more the focus there. The unique items obviously will have a much tighter range than the 75 eye power swing of rare items, but the Uber uniques will always be at 920. But rare items, no, they will still have they'll still have a range. If you want to get a tighter range on rare items, then you can maybe potentially think about going and hitting Nightmare Dungeons of a higher eye power range, or a higher level range, because then you're going to start having the eye power min of the rare range start to go higher and higher with every new monster level that you fight.
A lot of questions about loot filters. Don't know if there's any plans or discussions regarding loot filters that you guys want to talk about.
I'll just acknowledge that being able to filter your loot is part of ARPG that many players enjoy, and we have
I mean,
heard
if
that
they're
feedback,
worth doing, then
and
whatever,
it's something
finally,
that,
right?
we're exploring right now.
And then, let's see, there is a question from Misfit Dio, which is, will Nightmare Sigils rotate within the season, or will it be the same dungeons for the whole season?
It's going to remain the same set of dungeons for the season in the current format. We can talk about what rotating them more frequently would feel like. It would mean invalidating keys after a period of time, or having a smaller selection of dungeons overall that rotates more regularly. But right now, we've really focused on making sure that we've got the set of like 25 really exciting Nightmare Dungeons to engage with the season.
All right, and we'll do one more question here, which is actually, you know what? I know it's a question that a lot of people are talking about, which is stash tabs. And because obviously we have changes here for Season 2 that address a lot of inventory related concerns. Are there any plans for additional stash tabs in the future or anything to discuss today?
I don't have any announcements on additional stash tabs, but what I can say is that we recognize that there continues to be a need, and that there will continue to be a need for more improvements to being able to store items.
We don't want to talk about that right now.
Players want to store a lot of items, and we're going to continue to make improvements in this area. You've seen some of them here today in Season 2, and we're going to continue to work on this.
Awesome. So took a bunch of questions here, and we went through all the Season 2, Season of Blood changes, or new Season of Blood mechanics that are going to be coming for players on October 17th. Again, Season 1, which is Season of the Malignant, actually ends on October 17th, and Season 2 starts also on October 17th. All the dates and times are actually going to be listed on a blog that will be live immediately after this this live stream.
Okay.
I will note that the plan is for Season 2 to actually start at 10 a.m. Pacific on the 17th. If you guys want to pre-plan schedules or anything like that, you have that ability of being able to do so now.
That's actually not too bad.
So
Only
we will
5.
actually be back here again for a campfire chat on
Tuesday.
October 10th with Mr. Adam Jackson, who will be going over all the class changes, class balance changes, class updates, as again the resistance updates that are coming in within the game, along with the damage bucket updates for vulnerable, overpower, and critical strike damage updates that are coming, plus unique item updates that we are going to be covering off. Of course, we'll have a Q&A associated with that. So there's a lot to talk about on the 10th as well. And I will note that we do plan on having patch notes available on the 10th immediately after that stream, so people can read through what is currently 41 pages of patch notes for people to kind of sort through and read through all the changes that will be coming within the game. But yeah, thank you guys for joining us. Again, Season 2 is October 17th, and again, Diablo 4 will now be available on Steam. You can wishlist that now.
Amazing
and it will be available with Season 2 when it arrives. So we have a lot to talk about on the 10th.
Go!
And to talk about 121 on the 10th as well.
right.
Sorry, forgot about that. Our future plans with Season 2. And of course, more to talk at BlizzCon. So thank you guys again from the whole Diablo 4 team here at Blizzard. Appreciate you guys joining in. And we'll see you next week for the October 10th stream. Have a good one.
Thank you for playing.
Thanks.
Let's go!